essence, and then elaborate on the essence, and you begin to see how everything relates. That's what structure is. It's the ability to see how A relates to B, even if A is on one side of the board and B is on the other. So with that type of information, the brain begins to see tremendous ways to create new understandings, new relationships. You see, because many people cannot organize or structure.
Right.
So they have to rely on your brain grabbing it by an experience. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? But as far as I'm concerned, the brain excels in understanding. It excels, that's what it's for. With the ability to look at something and then define it. What is it? How is it connected to everything else? What's the ultimate purpose of the entire operation? The brain, that's what it does best. It also does if you give it an experience. But that experience is a fragment. And then you give it another experience, and that's a fragment, right? After a while, it will seek a pattern between the fragments. You see? But that's slow and what's a good way? It's just a slow way, and it never equals.
It's hit or miss.
Yeah, it's hit or miss, and it's slow, it's hit or miss, but it never chaps, the Yiddish word is chap. It never truly grasps. If something, however, is presented as a essential, fundamental structure, then the grasp is immediate. And it's all, the whole tapestry. The greater the understanding of the individual fragments, right, and the existing relationship, the greater the ability of the brain to really go far afield and, hey, that connects to this, you see? But a lot of it is predicated on the fact that, do you understand what you know, relationship-wise, now? And then the brain can take the leap. But if you don't even really understand this, and you understand the experience, you understand this idea and this idea, you say, that's slow, it's fragmented thinking. Eventually the brain will sort of like pick up the pieces. But you can't compare it to a person who sees the entire... Look, you look at a picture, right? What are you looking at? The totality hits you in the head. Mm-hmm. That's the ability to look at all pieces in one shot and understand their relationship with each other. That's what method is.
Just one
Anyway, okay.
I think you're giving mankind more credit for intelligence, desire, and motivation.
But that's not an argument. You know why? That's because mankind has free will. Wait. Most of mankind is lazy. No. I'm not. Right now, I don't care, people. Right now, I'm into the world of ideas. What's the ideal? Now, you hope to align the man with the ideal. Fine. That's what you want to do. The fact that he's lazy, he's not motivated, or he's got thinking about everything else, that's psychology. You got to get him in there. But you're talking from a very practical standpoint.
Well, that's where I'm going.
And my focus is the ideal. And then to do both. Okay, we are now up to, we did Noshim, and we did Mizik, we did Noshim, and we did Boye. Remember that? Yes. So what was the essential concept of Noshim? To boil it down to its essence. What's the essential idea that encompasses the whole Noshim? And the answer is?
Violence.
Who?
Violence.
Almost.
Almost, yeah, good.
But you see, you're really right on one level. But I didn't say, well, okay, I'll go with it.
No, let's
Now, we're
go
gonna learn.
take
Let's go
the
with your
scenic
program.
route, Rabbi, go on.
What I would have said, see, here's what I would have said. The essential concept, it's called the foundational concept. Every area has a foundational concept. What's a foundational concept? That's the foundation. It's like a building. You know, it's a 10-story building or whatever, right? It's kind of foundation that holds up that whole building. You see? There are most areas, there's one idea that holds up the whole building. You get that idea, you grasp the essence of the entire building. You see? And so therefore, when you look at Noshim, what becomes obvious to you is, what is the foundational concept? And the answer is Ishus, a marriage state. You see, right? In other words, Noshim is all about Ishus. means it's all about the state that is called marriage. That's what the Ishus is.
So ownership is just a device.
Wait, no. Wait.
Sorry, back up.
It's okay. Ishus is the essential idea of the entire Nashim. It's all about marriage. That's it. Now, in order to do now, what's the next thing you do? You need to define marriage. Right? You want to get into it. What exactly is Ishus? You need a definition. If you don't have a definition, then it becomes problematic. You know what I'm saying? So what's the definition of Ishus? A legal state, and I use the word legal, right? Because legal is that which is recognized by everybody. It's a concept called a social agreement. We all agree that you're married. So it's hands off, guys. Right? So, right, it's a legal state in which an individual has rights of control over an object called a woman. Now, I don't know if women like this, but that's fundamentally what it is. Got it? It's a legal state in which an individual, a man, nowadays that's usually a man, you never know what's going on out there. Which a man has rights of control over an object called a woman.
I would say entity in this case. It's a lot.
No, I don't like it. That's what Ishus is. Now, as soon as I look at the word Ishus, I now understand what Ishus is. I say, I've got its definition. It includes the concept of what? Legal state, which means it's some type of a position or relationship that exists. And the essential nature of the relationship, what? You have man, which is subject. You have woman, which is object. But what's the essential relationship? Rights of control. That's what it is. If there's no rights of control, there's no issues. The thing which defines issues, besides what subject and object that we're talking about, is the concept of rights of control. That is one human being that has the rights of control over another human being.
And that's the relationship with each other.
That is the true, essential relationship. Now, when I look at that, I can do one of two things. I can either go up, which means that take the helicopter up, or I can dive in. You see? But the definition is always the first thing you need to arrive at. Because the definition reveals the concept. Now, if I want to go up, I say, wait a minute. I have man, I have woman, and I have rights of control. Fine. Rights of control. Issues. What's the concept of rights of control altogether? It's true, right now I have a man and a woman. But rights of control I can do with other things. I can have a master and slave. Right? I can have a man and his animal. He owns an animal. A man and his property. Right? The concept of rights of control now applies to many subjects and objects. So what's the definition? What is the term called rights of control? And I don't care what object I'm talking about. And the answer is bias. See, I jumped up. I said, wait a minute, that's what bias is. The essential concept of bias is where A can control B in some manner. Yeah, and it's legal, which means it's recognized by everybody. You see? Which is very important. In other words, I've just jumped up. So what's called the superstructure of Ishus is bias. Got it? Very important. Because I now understand what Ishus really is. Ishus is a bias type. Got it? Wow. I've just expanded. Well, how many bias types are there? Wow, let's check it out, right? Well, marriage is a bias type, right? Slavery is a bias type, right? How about God and the Jews? That's also a king and his subjects. We forget about that, right? Rosh Hashanah, that's a bias type. Yeah. In fact, Rosh Hashanah is all about recognizing that bias. Exactly. It's funny, So we say, yet we mamlech the Rosh Hashanah. But what are we really doing? We're saying you are the owner. You own us. Therefore, you have rights of control. That's really what we did. You're the boss. That's really what Rosh Hashanah is all about. The acknowledgement, recognition that God is the boss. What type of bias is God and the Jews? Malchus, king and subject. You see what I'm doing? So that's also a bias type, right? What else is a bias type? Who?
We're objects.
No, that's the definition. Give me the types of bias, right? I'm talking, what other? Ishus is a bias type, Avdus is a bias type, Malchus is a bias type, right? Then your own objects, cow, property, or real estate, it's also a bias type. What else is a bias type? Which is more subtle.
Child?
Who?
Parent-child?
Parent-child, yes. Exactly. It's also a bias type. It's amazing how many different bias types are there. But you know also employment. I'm paying you. I have rights of control over your labor from 9 to 5. That's bias. So employment is all about bias really, except it's a different type of bias. It's limited. It's only in his work and so on. You see, what I'm doing is getting a feel of what bias is all about. And there's so many different types. And depending on the type of bias, which means depending on the who owns and who is owned, that will define or determine the nature of the laws of that bias type. You see, it's clear, it's simple. So we begin to realize that Noshim is all about bias called Ishus. Nezikin is all about bias of everything else. You see? So we begin to see huge swaths of Torah once I've defined Ishus and bias. You see? That's because I've gone up. Clarity is the key. The greatest form of clarity. There are 6 educational objectives. I'll show you. 6. This is the objective of all education. I don't care what you're teaching. 1, clarity. 2, depth. You understand it deeply, and each one needs a definition. 3, comprehensiveness. I understand deeply, not just one idea, but the whole 9 yards. Comprehensiveness. 4, retention. I'm able to remember clarity, depth, and comprehensiveness. That's retention. To retain, it's critical. 5, efficiency. If I can learn all of this in 1 hour, why am I spending 15 hours on this? I could have been doing something else the other 14 hours, right? Like playing with my smartwatch, or whatever, right? You know, that's called efficiency. Each one is a critical idea. And number 6 is applicability. How do I apply this in the real world? You see, that's it. Those are the 6 educational objectives, which apply to anything you want to teach. Now you can ask yourself, of everything that I know, which parts do I know? Do I know it clearly, profoundly, comprehensively? Do I remember it? Have I learned it efficiently? And do I know how to apply it? You see? Anyway, so now, each thing itself needs a definition.
Exactly.
What is clarity?
Is there a systematic approach to arriving at a definition?
Yes. Try to understand what's the definition of a definition.
Yeah,
The definition of a definition is a statement, right, that describes the true nature or essence of something. What is it?
So first you break it in its parts, the handle.
No, first you have to, you try to define it. The definition is the most important thing you could say about anything, because it tells you what is this, you know. There's only 2 things the mind, I once said this, there's only 2 things the mind wants to do about anything. That's all it wants to do. And if it does that, it knows everything. Amazing how simple it is. The first thing the mind wants to know is, what is this? Definition. The second thing the mind wants to know is, how does it relate to everything else? Synthesis. So what is this definition is the beginning of analysis. The second thing is synthesis. How does it relate to everything else? Once you know that, you got it all. You see? That's really all it wants to do. What's that?
I understood that to make a definition, first you should find the class. Not first try to figure out specifically this thing.
Yeah, the
figure out its class, and then
differentiate. Differentiate.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's what
the process.
A definition should consist of those 2 ideas.
So you have to
It's
find
actually
class.
the process. That's what I think.
Yeah,
It's much
yeah.
easier to find first you get close.
Yeah, but how do you find the class?
Yeah, exactly. What's the
I'm saying you want to
class.
know what a chair is. I know it's something they use for sitting on it,
Yeah.
but there's also other things like that. But I'm pretty close now.
Yeah, because you've defined its
Yeah,
class,
yeah.
but you don't know its differentiate.
Exactly.
Well,
So
how
I'm
is
saying
it?
maybe that's a
How is
process.
a chair different than a sofa?
Fine, right.
Yeah, yeah.
But I got pretty close. Now
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
ruled it out.
yeah. Alvai, Everybody should get that close.
So you can
Alavai,
finally sit down.
you know? But anyway, so so that's what I did when I looked at Nashim. I said, what is all this about? Well, it's all about Nashim. What about Nashim? Well, it's all about a state in which a woman is involved. That's called marriage. You see? And then once I had that, I went up to Bailas, right? And I want to go back down in Nashim and look at its divisions, its categories, its parts. What are the parts of Nashim? What are the parts of Ishus? Right? And we realize there are different parts, right? First of all, there's what? There's the subject. Who owns? Right? How did he create this state of ownership? What methods did he use to create? What methods can he use to dissolve the ownership? You notice? Right? Right? And then what are his, and then what methods can he use to transfer his ownership? You know? Create, dissolve, and transfer. Right? Good. Now, then we get into the ownership. What are his rights? What are his rights? You see? Really, what are the area of his rights? Because he controlled this person completely? Or there's an area. Nah, you're an employee. I don't control you completely. You know? I can control your activity from 9 to 5. You see? An Evet, Kanani, I control you 24/7.
Yeah.
That's called Gufay Konoloi. Means you are, it's almost like you're my property. You're like my animal. Not that you are an animal, right? But I control you 24/7 in every area. You see, and in every place. Wow. That's total ownership. You see, that's an Evet Kanani. You know? And so on. So each one.
24/6, maybe.
Yeah, 24/7.
Shabbat, you're supposed
No,
to.
because
No,
he can
but
tell he has to
You
rest.
just can't make them work.
You can't make them work.
Make it
Control his limitations.
So we have to read
Yeah, I
back
can
to
make it clear my
definition.
table. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe.
So we have to go back to definition of
It's not a malacha.
Isha.
Yes.
Right, as legal state in which an individual man has, we have to have limited rights of control over an object, which is a woman.
Yeah.
Limited, we're limited.
Yeah, why? I mean, first, what I'm doing is I'm showing you bias, right? So we have the subject, how you create the state called bias, how you dissolve it, how you transfer it. Then what's the area of his rights, right? What are the area? What are his rights? What can he tell the person to do? You know? What are the limitations on those rights? What are his responsibilities? Does a man have responsibilities to a woman because he owns her or he's married to her? Responsibilities, right? What are his obligations toward her? You see? And then we look at the object, woman, right? What woman? Which women are permissible to take, which are not? The whole concept of arroyas and so on, right? And then what are her rights? Does she have any rights, right? Are there any limits to her rights? What are our responsibilities and our obligations? And then we have, wait a minute, can I create all of this with an agent, a shliach? Is the agency applied to any of these? He to take her and she to be taken is the concept of agency. You see? Where does he have these rights? When does he have these rights? Look how many different facets there are to bias. Why is it so interesting to do this? Because different halachas all over the place address different categories. There are halachas about who can own, how he creates, how he dissolves, how he transfers. What are his rights? What are his area? There are halachas all over the place. So what I've done is I've created a picture. The jigsaw puzzle is all the halachas. It's all over the place. That's the problem. Like I always say, you know, if I give you a jigsaw puzzle of 1,000 pieces, what's the first thing you're going to ask me for? It's the box. Why? Because without that box, it's going to take you years to put this together. Because the box, the box reveals the relationship between each piece. So I take a piece and I say, okay, let me see where, right? You see, that's why the key to clarity is structure, synthesis. You know, the key is analysis and then synthesis. That's claw, you see? And that's what I'm doing, you know? So I've taken Bailus, the concept, and I've now created a structure of Bailus. And I now see the totality, beautiful, of every area of Bailus. That means if I now learn any Masechta, Bava Basra, or whatever, Kiddushin, whatever, right? I can see immediately where this fits into the structure. That's clarity. So when the first Mishnah says, Oisha Niknes, a woman is acquired, you know what I'm saying? In 3 ways, correct? What does that mean? Well, what does Oisha Niknes mean? A woman is acquired. What does that mean?
It's a category of metals.
A woman is
An object.
is owned.
It becomes owned.
Acquired, she's owned, correct? The ownership of a woman is called ishus. So Isha Niknes means if you want to own a woman, which means marriage or ishus, you could do it in one of 3 ways. So those 3 ways, right, is what? Where those? Which category do those 3 ways fit?
Creating of them.
What? How to create the state. Beautiful. You see? It doesn't tell you that in the Mishnah. You got to know this. Because it's basically you need to create your own box. Because the Mishnah is not going to do it for you. You see? And then you're stuck. You're stuck with 1,000 pieces. Bad news. You see? You want to create a box, which is not easy. But that's the skill that you need to learn. How to create a structure.
But the Mishnah does tell you.
It doesn't tell you that Oisha Niknes is really a form of bias. And it doesn't tell you how to create a state. Well, Niknes means you own, but the category is how to create the state.
But then it says,
what?
Kesef.
That's the methods. Those are the 3 methods.
So what's the difference between, in this case, the method and the agency or the how to create the state?
What do you mean the agency?
Isha Nichnis. The
Isha
Nichnis is the
Nichnis,
verb.
yeah.
Yeah, Nichnis is the
Niknes, yeah. Woman is acquired.
right. It's
A woman
acquired.
is owned, or a woman is married. I don't care what you call it, right?
Yeah.
But how? What do you really want to do? When you say Oisha Niknes and say B'Sholish Brachim in 3 ways, what are you really saying? How do you create the state of Ishus?
But then it says in the next sentence.
No, you understand. Of course it says, but it's a detail. 3 ways to do what? To create a state called Ishus.
Okay.
So you've got a category in Bible, so actually you create an Ishus structure, which is very similar. In the category of Ishus structure, there's a category called how do I create a state? Bema, that's what the first Mishnah is. And then it tells you the koines atzma, and she acquires herself, which means she releases your ownership. And she says, just get out of my way. Right? Get off me. That's basically what she's saying. So what she does is she releases your ownership. Right? And then...
Well, she doesn't really do it.
She
doesn't do it.
What does she do?
I'm saying, let's say if it's a get, she doesn't do it. So she has to...
Oh,
it has to be put by her.
No.
That's
No.
interesting.
What does a get do? What is a get?
It's a shtar.
A get is a document.
Document.
Good.
That's
So
the
what-
way all
And
dissolves.
it is
What?
the device to dissolve the
Good.
relationship.
Great. Well, great. Okay. A get is an instrument or a device, right, that is used to dissolve a marriage bond or the ishus state. There you are. Which Masechta deals with that? Gittin. So you now begin to see the Masechtas deal with, like I said, different categories. Kiddushin deals with how to create ishus and all the conditions that are necessary for the creation process, and there are many. Gittin is all about how to dissolve the thing, right? Remember I told you what the Ksubis is all about? The man's obligation toward his wife. Ksuba, what's my obligations, my responsibilities toward my wife? Yuvamis is all about, remember I told you what Yuvamis is? Yes?
Exception.
Isn't the word legal necessary in the definition? Because there are other ways of ending it.
Other ways of ending what?
The marriage.
No?
Yeah. If he dies.
The shotgun method.
No. Legal simply means that we all agree that this state exists. But that's the first concept of legal. What's the second concept? The concept of legality is very important. Without that, society could not exist. When something is legal, 2 things happen. One is that we agree that you're married to this woman. Yes? First idea. Second idea is that if somebody interferes, it's enforceable in a court of law, whatever that means, consequence. That's the concept of legality. 1, agreement of the state. Number 2, enforceability in a court of law. right? If I own something and you steal it, I can take you to court. It's enforceable. Why? Because we all agreed legally I own it. I'm the legal owner. See?
Just going back, when you mentioned about a get isn't something that a woman that a woman generates. In other words, it doesn't come from her. A woman doesn't end it. In other words, a get has to be given to her, and she has to accept it.
Yes.
But you have an impression that it really can come from her. It doesn't really.
No. Wait.
It's the lesson.
What I meant is this. A get is the instrument or device that can terminate or dissolve a marriage bond. Period. Right. So that's what it is. So therefore, you have to make sure that the get has that power. That's all the halachas about get. The text and the signatures and all that kind of stuff, right? Right. And so the instrument is valid, right? Okay. Now, when it's delivered, right? What's the effect of the get, right? The effect is that his ownership terminates or is removed, correct? Right? Then the next question is, what's the process? What is the process? He's got a hand of the get. She has to be kind of it, right? Against her will. You throw it in the chotzer or whatever, right? And she's kind of it, and against her will, right? He removes his bias. So the dynamics or the action of removal, he does.
He removes his balance, or he gives her back her own ownership of herself?
Which comes first? First you got to remove his, and then she now resumes ownership of
Yes, but the
herself.
lesson of the Mishnah is confusing.
Which Mishnah?
Kedushin.
The koina is atzma,
Yeah.
right? What is the koina is atzma? And she acquires herself, right?
Why is it passive? Why is it reflexive?
But it really is passive.
Yeah,
the koina is atzma.
after he's
So the koina is atzma doesn't mean that she does the action.
Yeah.
What action would she do? She would remove his bias, and automatically she becomes her own owner. She doesn't have to make a kinyan. It's interesting, It's not like, well, I own you.
So why is it in the same lashon as?
Probably because nicknames and koina, it would have to say if your isha doesn't koina satzmo, and the woman resumes prior ownership,
Okay.
But the Mishnah uses the lashon of koina, but really she removes his ownership is removed, I should say, and therefore she now resumes her ownership. Memela, which is interesting. Why is that interesting? Because when a man marries a woman, what is he really doing? What's he really doing?
Getting her scum.
She has to have, What she is doing, she's saying, in other words, did she give him her ownership? Or she allowed his ownership to supersede hers?
That's Havchan.
Which is it?
The brisk, right?
Yeah, it's a classic. I don't know if brisk does this, but you don't need brisk to make hakiras like this. If you understand something well, you could do all the brisk hakiras yourself. Believe me, you don't need brisk. It's a tremendous mistake. So that's the question. Does she give him her ownership? But if she did that, she would have to make a new kinyan to become her owner.
To get it back.
Get it back.
Yeah.
Because, hey, ownership is, you need to make a kinyan for ownership. So if she said, hey, it's yours, right? And let's assume he's gone, let's say he died, right? Fine. So his ownership is removed.
There's no escrow.
But wait a minute, what happened to her ownership? And the answer is, so if she gave him ownership, she would have to make some kind of kinyan act, because that's what you need to create. But what happens if that's not what goes on? What really goes on is, I allow you to supersede my ownership. I agree that your ownership supersedes, doesn't remove, but it's like, I allow you to become my boss, but if you're gone, hey, I'm still, I retain my original ownership, you know what I'm saying? So Kedushin really works that way. His ownership supersedes hers, but when he dies, or he removes his ownership by a get, she now resumes previous ownership. Automatically. Exactly.
It was never
What?
relinquished in a sense.
It was never
Just
relinquished, no. It just allowed him to be supersedes,
That's
exactly.
in the lashon.
That's a classic briska chakira, which I have never seen in this. It doesn't make a difference. If you understand things conceptually, you can do this all the time. Many, many ways. For instance, we know that if he marries her, he performs an act of Kiddushin. Yes? Okay. What is the Kiddushin? Kiddushin is an act of acquisition. It's a method of acquisition. Yes? What does he do? he acquires her. Means he now becomes her owner, in whatever sense that is, right? So the question is, does he take her ownership with her permission? Or does she give him her ownership with his permission to receive it? Because remember, in the end, he's the receiver and she's the giver. You know, it's funny, a woman, the owner and the object owned is identical. A woman owns herself.
Mm-hmm.
So really, a woman is an owner.
Mm-hmm.
And she says,
That's
hey,
what it is.
she's an owner, ownee simultaneously.
Yeah.
So does he take it or does she give it? Both needing agreement. But when if he takes it, it means he actually does the action of taking it and he receives the ownership. Or no, he doesn't take it. She says, hey, I give it to you. And he says, fine, I'll accept.
Well, that's why there's this thing called...
Again, once you think about what's going on, which is what is essentially going on in Kedushin? What's the Kedushin effect? What is the Kedushin effect? What does the Kedushin want to effect?
Her violence over herself becomes his violence over
What
her.
is that called? It's called the transfer of ownership. Yeah. The Kedushin effect is transfer of ownership. That's really what it is. What is that called in normal business?
Purchase.
What?
The purchase.
It's called what?
Kinyan.
Purchase.
What's a purchase?
Kinyan.
An acquisition.
Where it says you become the owner
Acquire
of
control
the...
of
What is that called in English?
In English?
Yeah.
Transaction.
It's a transaction, but what is it really called? What type of transaction is it?
Acquisition.
It's called a sale. Right? You ever see Mifsa? Mifsa, sale, I always get a kick out of that. Why does a business say sale? Of course it's a sale, or else why would they be in business? I mean, what are they trying to tell me? Some kind of Kiddush.
It's a sale.
It's a sale. Well, of course it's a sale. What else are you doing? What they really mean is a discount. But really, an ishus, the whole concept of acquiring a woman with kesef is cash, is sale. I want to buy you. The amazing thing is how cheap it is to buy. All you need is a pruta. You give her a pruta and she's yours. Who got the better end of the deal?
Well,
That's the question. Anyway,
But this shows that there is this thing called balus.
Yes, a sale. It's a sale. The object you bought is a woman instead of a cow. I hate to use.
But there's this whole Ma'arechet balus that Kedushin approaches it, Gittin approaches it, Yevamos. I mean,
Wait, I don't know where you're going with this.
this is, we
It's
just
a sale.
isolated, no, but we just isolated that there's a state called balus.
Yes,
And-
that bias is a super category of issues. Yeah, right?
But that's connected to a lot to...
Sure, once we've come to bias, we now see that the whole issues is really a subform of bias, and so on, right? Anyway, so what is Nizikin? What's Nizikin all about?
Also violence.
It's about,
Regular violence.
it assumes bias, correct?
It's a different type of violence.
But what is, let's say, Bava Kama? What is Bava Kama all about?
Damages. I need a better definition.
Damages.
Not very precise.
No. Everybody familiar with Bava Kama? It gives you the damage doers, the damagers. Sure, an ox that gores, a boar, you fall into a pit. Somebody dug. Somebody did a fire. Right? Or somebody owns an ox and it eats in your field. Yes? So what's Bava Kama all about? It's certainly about damages, because that's what it's talking about. Right? What is damage, really?
Infringement on your violence, on what you own.
It's a negation or an infringement, good, of ownership. That's really what it is. It looks like you detracted from the object, but really you detracted from the ownership. If you kill a deer in a forest, yes? Is that called damage? Well, to the deer it is because it's dead. The deer would say, you're a mazik.
If it's the king's fires, maybe.
What?
If it's the king's fires, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Yeah, that's right. No.
that's
It's
true.
king's fires because then what damage is it? You've negated or interfered with his ownership.
Right.
If there's no ownership, there's no damage. Actually, there is damage, but what's the problem? If nobody owns that which you damage,
If it's hefker.
no, well, it's not that. Yeah, well, it's Efka. So what's the problem? What's the essential idea missing?
There's no one that has any
Claim.
There's no recourse.
has any claim of
Of what?
of benefit.
No, that's
of
not
control.
benefit. No,
Exclusivity.
no.
No recovery of damage.
No, what?
Recovery of damages.
What is that called?
No
Compensation.
Compensation.
There's no compensation. The essence of the whole Bava Kama is damages through a damage doer that is compensatory. Without that, who cares? You shoot a deer in a forest, there's no compensation. You see, because you have not interfered with anybody's ownership. When you're mazik somebody, what you're really doing is you're compensating him for the loss of ownership. That's really what it is. So therefore, the whole Bava Kama is about three things: damages, damage doers, and compensation. It's really what it's all about. Where does that fit in Bilas? Because without Bilas, there's no hezek, no damage. So Bava Kama is all about the negation or detraction of Bilas. See, isn't that interesting? Which Masechta in Noshim deals with hezek? Soita, that's what a soita is. What's a soita? A soita is a woman that is suspected of adultery. Correct? Right? So what conceptually, what is that? Conceptually, what is that?
The hezek.
Who?
The hezek.
Is a hezek why? What does a hezek do?
Because he has rights to control.
He has rights of,
She
exactly.
has violence.
Exactly. He has rights of intimacy with this woman. She or the other guy went ahead and they interfered with his rights of intimacy.
Allegedly.
She's a mazik. You see? The reason why it's a noshim is because the hezek is in interference in ishus. So we put it in noshim. But really the guy's a mazik. She and the guy is a mazik. Because they detracted his rights of intimacy with this woman. That's part of his rights of ownership. Isn't that interesting? That's what a cert is. You see? Anyway.
Shouldn't the word suffix be added there? Because if it really is,
It's a vada.
then there's other places.
There's,
like that
it's
word.
funny, I saw there's a word called soita vadai and soita safik. A soita apparently means a noyefes, which is an adulteress. You can add safik or vadai, the usual term of soita is refers to safik. But conceptually, without the understanding of ishus, then soita makes no sense. So the foundational concept of the whole Masechta Soita is ishus. Then the question, of course, is, well, she's a suspected adulteress. So then the whole question is, right? Well, number one, why is she suspected? What creates the doubt? Are there halachic conditions to the doubt being created? Right? And then he has to warn her and witnesses, Once a doubt is created, what's the legal consequences of this? Can we clarify the doubt? And the answer is yes, with the waters. You see, there's all kinds of parts in Soita.
There's also who doubts, right? Like meaning the Eidim, for example. What's that about? Right?
Well, the Eidim will testify to a specific event. But when you say who doubts, you mean what? Who is doubting? Is the man doubting? The husband doubting?
I'm
Is,
saying
does anybody doubt?
Right. Well, meaning
Doesn't matter.
there's a hashash.
What's that?
Who created the hashash over this woman in the first place?
Or how is the chashash created?
Okay.
How does it become?
How is suspicion created?
established?
Is there a specific procedure to the creation of suspicion? And the answer is yes. Well, what happens if two Eidim come over to a guy and say, we saw your wife going into this private place with this guy, but the guy never warned her. So is that a soita? No,
No.
because there's no kino. He never warned her. clearly it involves that the man suspects something's going on. Why would he warn his wife? You see? So there has to be some type of subjective warning or suspicion. Without a subjective suspicion, she's not a Satan. Interesting. You see, this is all the different parts of the Masechta.
So it seems
But
like
it's always about understanding the fundamental concept. Yeah.
it seems like the key to the methodology is learning, for us learning how to ask the right questions.
Correct.
How do you
Half
do
the
that?
answer
That's
is the
thing.
right question.
Right.
Most guys never get to the truth because they never ask the right question. You see, you have to learn how to phrase a question, the essential question, and that will lead you to get into an answer. But if you don't
How do we
have
do
the
that?
essential question,
That's the
How do
whole
we do that?
thing.
then you won't get to the answer because you don't even know what to answer.
Well, you're here.
That's what you're here to do.
Yeah,
So
right?
that's where you can start.
Let's,
But the essential question is always what?
what is it?
What is it, and
what's
how does it relate to
related?
everything else? That is the question. You see?
Analysis and synthesis, right?
Correct, yeah. That analysis and synthesis is nothing more, and then answering the question of what is it, and what does it connect, how does it connect to everything else? See? But you have to look at each thing, in terms of what happens, Okay, let me jump to, the Zikin, we're doing the Zikin. So we find that the whole Zikin really is what? Or Bava Kama, I should say, is about bias, or the interference of bias. See? What is Bava Metzia about?
Suffix bias.
Well, part of it is, it's bias again. Without bias, there's no Bava Metzia. But Bava Metzia is all about the different aspects of bias. In the first parak, Shnaim Erzim, what do we have? Suffix bias. Who owns this object? Two guys are grabbing onto an object, right? He says it's his, he says it's his. So what's the problem here?
The proclivities.
We don't know who's the real boss.
Correct. Doubtful ownership. Suffix bias. Why is there a doubt? Why is there a doubt? What creates the doubt?
Well,
They
claim
both have a solid proof.
Rights.
Forget about the proof, that's irrelevant. What creates the doubt in this case?
Claim of ownership.
Oh, because
Conflict
claim.
claims of ownership.
Because they're
Oh,
owning it.
it's conflict.
Conflict.
Because we have two people, each one claiming owner. So it's the conflict, right, that creates the doubt.
And through that conflict, you understand.
Well
what
then,
the
if you have a
parameters-
conflict, what must we do? We must
Resolve.
clarify, resolve it. You see? How do we resolve it?
Say,
Who?
it's the proclivities of ownership.
Well,
What
in order to
defines
resolve
ownership?
something, we need to look at all the aspects of this case. You see? What is one aspect of the case? Now I'm showing you how to look at a case. What is the physical relationship that each one has with that talus?
Possession.
Claiming.
That's chazaka,
Yeah.
right? What does each one claim? That's number 2, right? Number 3, what are the real possibilities? Is it possible that they really both own it? Even though each one says that they own it, what's the possibility? What's the possibility of a reality different than they
It's
claim?
impossible because that's
No,
not the conflict.
Well, Then number 4, we need to apply a bureau device. We need to apply some device that will clarify. You see? And then number 5, we can reach a resolution. These are the 5 elements in a given case.
What's the bureau device?
What's the bureau? In that Mishna, it is shiur, oath.
Sure.
What other bureau devices could we have applied?
Elim Gvar.
Aiden.
Witnesses. Who? Would you say? Aiden what?
Elim Gvar, the stronger man.
No, that's a resolution.
Because
Hold
then
down
they declare-
var is a
That's
resolution.
not considered abuse.
No, of course not. No, that's what we do.
Uh-huh.
There are 3 resolutions to this conflict. Yachloiku, split.
Uh-huh.
Call down va, fight it out. But yemunach, we don't really know. Let it stay with somebody until the Elio comes. There's 3 ways of going, you see? And the resolutions depends on these 4 different items. What's the physical connection to the object that he's claiming? What does he claim? What is a possibility in reality, even though it's different than they claim? And what's the application of a bureau device? So we have shvuah as a first bureau device. What other bureau devices are there? What other devices can we use to clarify the truth or the reality of this matter? Adam, witnesses, shtar,
Shtar.
document. chazaka, presumption. You see, right? Shvuah, mikui, roiv, majority. These are all beer devices that we can apply to any case. See, what I'm doing is I'm creating the general ideas of any case. Any case that comes in front of you, you have a checklist that you can now look at. Let's see. What's the relationship between them and the physical and the object? What are their claims? You know, what could be the reality? And do we have a beer device? Any of them? And then based on that, that determines the resolution. You see? That's Bava Metzia. But Bava Metzia also deals with what? Ribis. Interest. Why is interest in Bava Metzia? Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's because one of the aspects of Bava Metzia, one of the aspects of finding a lost object is that if you find a lost object and you return it, and this lost object was a sheep that had multiple babies or things like that since, so what do I have to return to somebody? You know, is that considered, right, maybe, I don't know.
Well, I'm talking about ribis, interest. If I lend you money, yes, I lend you money, you use it, you got to give me the $100 that I lent you plus $10 interest. Yes? You got to get that's ribis, right? So the question is, what does ribis, interest on a loan, have to do with Bava Metzia? Because Bava Metzia deals with bias. You know what I'm saying?
Those are the terms, when you lend money, so those are the terms of the loan. That I own that money that I lent him.
You own the money that you lent. You're the malva.
I'm the malva. I own the money that's now in his hands.
Good.
And part of the compensation for that is the interest.
So when it says that you cannot take interest, what is it really saying? That you cannot own compensation. See, ribis is about what you can't own. Certain things you can't own. One of them is compensation for giving him a loan. You know what I'm saying? So that's also part of ownership. What can I own, what can't I own?
Who owns the compensation?
Nobody. You can't, either he can give it, nor you can take it. You cannot own compensation.
Well, I think you can. It's illegal. But if he gives it and you take it, both of you are over, but it happened.
So that's the concept of what is the legal consequences of him giving you ribis.
I said there's consequences, but you now own the ribis.
But the Torah says you should not own it.
Okay, Torah says you shouldn't, but people do all kinds of stuff, and he was kohen.
All I'm saying is the Torah issues a command: do not own ribis. That's all. Now your question now, what happens if he was oiva? Fine, but the Torah clearly says do not own it. That's all. That's what I'm focusing on. That the Torah says you should not own.
Okay, but different than you should not own, then you cannot own, right?
I'm not distinguishing between you. I'm just saying the Torah says this is forbidden for you to own. That's all. It's the prohibition against owning ribis.
So how do we distinguish that from the prohibition against the noefes, right? So there's a prohibition. The whole Masechta is dedicated to being over on a prohibition.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, but
no, she's a mazik, right? Mazika, right?
Okay.
Because she's violated his rights of intimacy.
Right.
Right? So what's the consequence?
Torah says don't do it, but she did it. Let's say she did it.
So now what?
So now first of all, it dissolves the marriage.
So what does that mean? So if it dissolves the marriage, what happened? What was the consequence legally?
She removed his ownership from her.
Correct. So that's the end of the ownership. He cannot be with her anymore. The Torah says that ownership is dissolved. So there's a case where if you violated it,
right,
that's the end of the ownership.
So how does that apply to interest, to ribis? That if you did it...
Fine, so whatever the halacha is,
right,
whatever the halacha is, I'm not arguing,
right.
What I'm saying, the Torah says, I don't want you to own ribis. You know what the interesting thing about ribis is? What is a loan? Let me put this in. One of the problems is hamafkid. Somebody deposits something. There are 4 shomrim. Yes? Shemachinam, Shemesachar, right? Shoyel and Noisesachar. Guy rents, right? Why are they in Bava Metzia? Oh, it's a good question, right? What are the rules they? A guy who, what's it mean? A Shemachinam means you have to watch it for free. A Shemesachar means I pay you to watch it. The guard, yes? A shoyel is a borrower, and a Noisesachar is a renter. Yes? What do they all have in common? And why are they in Bava Metzia?
It's not their object to begin with.
It's not their object, correct? They're not the legal owners. Go ahead.
They're basically temporary owners.
Exactly, beautiful.
That's right.
Because I want to tell you something. The legal owner, what they call is acting owners. You ever see an acting vice president? He's not, he hasn't been voted, but until they replace him, he's an acting owner. A shiur is an acting owner that has been given permission to assume that acting ownership by the legal owner. But if for instance, a guy rents a car, right? He's an owner because he has certain responsibility. He has rights of control, right? He can use that object. He can do whatever he wants with the object, and you can't because I rented it. Isn't that called an owner? A shiur are owners. If you borrow something, you own that object. You see, you have responsibilities, right? More important, what's the definition of ownership? Rights of control. You can actually control that object. You borrowed it, you can control it. That's why they're above mitzvah. Because ownership, renting or borrowing is a form of ownership. But it's acting ownership as opposed to legal ownership.
Would this be another category of shituf ownership?
Not really. Shituf is they truly have rights of control legally.
Well, like the car rental company and the renter.
No, because
that's
the
a-
car. No, because a shutaf, he is a legal owner. His rights of control stem from the fact that he's a legal owner. He may be partial, true, but he's legal. The guy who lent or rented, he was given permission to be an owner. He's what's called an owner, on behalf an owner instead. Instead. So and therefore the Gemara has to deal with what happens if you're an acting owner, not a legal owner. You're an owner. What about a shemachinam, a guy who guards? He's also an owner.
Shiur, if our definition of legal was agreement and enforceable, so shmira is enforceable. If I rented it, so I could go, I could take it to court. It's mine now. I have rights over it right now.
No, but you're not a legal owner. You have to return it to the
I have
owner.
the ideas of legality I had.
You're saying
We agree that
this
you can
point
now
it's mine.
control,
Yeah.
but it's not legally yours. What is legally yours is that the owner has given you permission to use his object for
It's
compensation.
a limited own legal
It's a limited.
ownership.
You're not
Limited.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You're the acting owner. You're not the legal owner. Means
It's my acting is legal. I'm a legal
yes,
actor.
your acting has legality, but it's still acting. It's not. When I say legal owner, I mean the actual owner. Maybe I should replace the word.
supplanted his
but
rights.
actual. I think you're getting caught up with that, yeah. Because they're both legal in that
Yeah,
sense, But one is the actual owner, and the other is the acting owner.
You haven't supplanted his rights.
What? Yeah.
Well, to differentiate between ownership and utilization,
Yes.
because it's not really ownership. It's a responsibility on someone else's own property.
Who has the responsibility? The one who rented, right?
Right.
Yeah. But he has the responsibility because he's a acting owner.
It's useless.
But he doesn't have all the full rights of ownership.
No, he
only
doesn't.
has right of utilization.
Correct, partial. So he's a partial owner. He's a partial acting owner. That's why it's above Mitzvah, a mafkid. All shomrim are acting owners, you see? And ribbis you can't own. It's what's funny, what is a loan, really? What's the transaction called a loan? What is it really?
You're temporarily.
A time-limited
Yeah.
transfer of ownership of the money.
I transfer the object, right?
Yeah.
And as I got $100,
It's not
I give it to
ownership,
you,
usage. It's usage.
right? And it's what?
Usage.
So therefore, what's that called? When I give you something and I enable you to use it, what's that called?
Transferring your rights of usage.
No, you're not transferring rights of usage, because I can use it too.
At the same
But I
time,
just don't want to use it. I give you the right now to use it. What's that called? Isn't that called rental?
Oh,
Am I not renting you the money? If I give you my car, if I say you give me money, and you rent the usage of the car. Well, if I give you money instead of a car, isn't that rental?
Yes.
Right?
yeah.
renting.
But normally in rental, I could take a fee, I rent you a car for a day, give me $100. Hey, that's rental, right? If I give you $100 worth of money to use, why am I not entitled to rental fee? It's my money.
Good question.
Isn't that interesting?
That's a fabulous.
Every loan is nothing more than a rental. Because you still have to give me back my money. You don't have to give me back that coinage, that's true. But you got to give me back, money in kind. But isn't that rental?
So it's interesting, right? The Torah makes a distinction between the currency itself.
Exactly, and the object.
And the object,
exactly.
yeah.
But what I'm saying is, what's interesting is conceptually, they're identical. I allow you to use my object, or I allow you to use my money. In any case, you got to give it back to me.
So
You
the
see?
Torah says no.
So it's true, the Torah says, the renter has to give the owner back his car, he's got to give the owner back his money. But there's no compensation in the case of money, whereas in a car there is. So therefore, what is the guy? The guy who uses the money, I lend people my money, and he cannot give me money, and I cannot take compensation for that, which is rivers, right? It's interest. So what is he really? Is he a renter, or is he a borrower? He's a borrower. Yeah, because if I say, hey, you come and say, hey, I want to lend you a lawnmower, right? That's no problem. I lend you, you borrow, I lend, and you borrow my lawnmower, and for free. That's called a borrower. Yes. You walk over and you say, I need $100. I said, fine, here's $100, right? And I don't take any money for it. That's called borrowing. So it comes out that a halvor, right, is really a shiur.
So there's no compensation ever.
There's no compensation.
So when the Torah says don't take compensation, it's don't call what's a borrowing a renting.
Don't call a borrowing a renting, yeah.
Well,
It's not rental.
basically,
Well,
don't
it's
rent
borrowing.
your money out.
What?
Just, you let it lend money, not rent it.
Correct. You're allowed to lend money, which means he's allowed to borrow the money, but you can't rent it. Because you see, you switched.
Although loan is not the borrowing of an object. Loan is the borrowing
Is that
of
value
value.
itself?
Well, you mean a loan, not a
A
rental?
loan of money. Borrowing money is not borrowing an object. It's borrowing the value of that object.
Well, the whole concept of a coin is a value. The coin doesn't mean anything. The coin's not worth anything, you know what I'm saying? So in essence, it is value, yeah. But what's the difference? I'm allowing you to use my money to do whatever you want. In terms of whatever intrinsically it can be used for, which is value. But what's the difference? I gave you the ability to use that coinage,
Money is value itself.
right, for whatever you want. So you're a shiur, not a nice stuff, yeah.
But the same thing then also works on objects. I give you one egg and I demand 2 eggs back for it. That's ribbis.
Okay, fine. Is that minatur or midrabanan?
That's it. It's a black hole.
Maybe. You are going into all the pratim. That's fine. But the first thing you need to do is identify the concept. What really is going on? Once you've got the concept as a framework, then the Gemara hits you with all the conditions. Well, it's ribbis in this case, but not in that case, not in that case. You see? Then you begin to do what's called case variations. You see all different types of cases. And does the principle hold up? Where is it ribbis and where is it not ribbis? And more important, where is it ribbis? Why is it ribbis here? And where is it not ribbis? Why is it not ribbis here? You're always into the principle, because that's the fundamental concept that you're trying to understand. You see? And then the rest of them say, somebody hires employees. What's an employee? Think about it, right? An employee, it's bias. I have bias over my employee. So the question is, what bias do I have and what bias do I not have over him? You know what I'm saying? So the whole Bava is all about different ideas about ownership. It's really what it's about. So Bava Kama is about the negation of ownership. And Bava is all about bias itself. Then you come to Bava Basra, which is mostly about karka. And it's also about bias. Well, how do I acquire a ship? And how it's all about ownership. So the whole Nezikin is all about ownership issues. See? Noshim was all about issues. Nezikin is all about ownership, bias issues. You see? What is Sanhedrin about? Because Sanhedrin is in Nezikin. Sanhedrin, the great court. Why is that in there?
They're enforcing the.
Well, it's not that they're enforcing.
It's the mechanism for dealing.
They are the ones that clarify bias. That's what they do. A court of law is there to clarify the law. That's really what it's for. It's the main idea of a court is to clarify what is the law. That's why two litigants will come, each one makes their claim, and then the court has to decide who's right. And they do that based on evidence. Based on evidence, because how else would they know? They decide who is correct. Correct what? Who is the real owner? You see? So Sanhedrin is the device that clarifies the problems of bias. You see?
Well, it's not only bias.
And now I'm going to give you a tough one. Well, then they have other functions. They have religious functions. Like Kiddush HaChodesh, I'll give you a real tough one. Why is Avodah Zorah worshiping idols? Right? Why is that in the Zikr? Who's going to figure that out? Oh!
I'm going to take a stab. Ready?
No problem.
Sure, because there's many concepts that if something is used for Avodah Zarah, you can't use it after that. Meaning, it basically takes away the usage of the item if it was used for Avodah Zarah.
It becomes Osaban no. Great. It affects your bias. Right? If you use something to worship, it affects your bias. That's excellent. But there's something more interesting. I know it's more, but... Oh, how? How you mazik God's bias?
That's nice.
I
like that.
What?
I like that better.
No, it's taking apart your recognition of his...
Of his what?
No, he has right to control.
But how are you taking away from his bias?
Because he said, don't worship that, worship me. And you're worshiping that.
So what are you saying?
You're violating his rights of control. It's in the relationship.
In a certain sense, you're setting up something as God's equal, or something that itself is entitled maybe to ownership. In other words, you're infringing on God's bias. Isn't that interesting? That's why, so Avodah Zarah really is what? He's a mazik. He's, in a certain sense, he's a mazik. He negates God's bias by worshipping another God. It's interesting. That's why Avodah Zarah. It's a bigger picture of Avodah Zarah, Although what you said, Simcha is right, it's correct. But this is like a, really...
Macro,
really,
micro.
Yeah, see, really it's a mazik.
So if you look at the destruction of the Bayit Rishon, it's all about nezek to bias. Avodah Zarah.
Go ahead. Shvichas Damim. And Gedaliah.
There you go. There's no greater nezek than those three of individual rights of ownership. Hashem, the husband and the wife, and yourself for your own life. Right? That's what the Chazal say. It's by individual bias.
Fine. Okay.
I like that.
Good.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something different. What it really does. Besides that, Shvichas Damim, you kill a guy when he no longer owns himself because he's dead. Correct?
Yeah.
That's Shvichas Gedaliah, right? That's right. Right? You've taken away his rights of intimacy with his wife.
Right.
So Behemo, she now has to divorce him. That's the end of the bias.
Right.
Avodah Zarah, by worshiping another God, deity, you are acknowledging that there is another deity, right? That in certain sense is equal to God, or therefore is a deity or an entity that has its own bias.
Right,
It exists independent of God.
Yeah.
But there's something else that you're doing. You are destroying the unity between three things. When the concept of intimacy with one's wife is a concept of unity, okay? So you destroy that by her being with some other guy. The second concept is if you want to interfere with somebody's unity, right? Every Jew is connected to each other. When you kill the guy, he's no longer connected because he's dead. So you've destroyed the unity of Klal Yisrael as one entity. You see. And then when you worship another God, you've now destroyed the unity between you and God by introducing another deity. In a certain sense, it destroys the achdus of Klal Yisrael. All three. But just the acting. Man and wife is destroyed. Jew and Jew is destroyed. God and Jews destroy. So it's really both. I'm just giving it a hashkafa perspective, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, okay, great. Then we have Horius. Horius deals with what? Bezdin makes mistakes. And we know Sanhedrin is there because they clarify all the issues, you know. Pirkei Avos. Start doing the Zika. We all know what Pirkei Avos is, right? Aga was always the way to get out of it.
To prevent it. By having a proper...
What is Pirkei Avos all about?
Nice.
Not good behavior.
Is what?
Behavior.
It's behavior that's too short.
Sorry.
What about this?
It's also Masorah.
What?
It's also Masorah. You know, it's a...
That's its origin. I'm talking about what is it about? What is Pirkei Avos really all about?
It's teaching Derech Eretz.
What is Derech Eretz all about?
I think the English word is dictums, right?
A dictum is a statement, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like advisable conduct or something.
Ooh, say again?
Advisable conduct or something.
Great.
Something like that.
Pirkei Avos is all about correct, proper, desirable behavior.
Effective.
What is the behavior
also.
which is correct,
And-
proper?
And effective.
Well, that's really what it's all about. And that behavior exists over many different dimensions. Your behavior to man, your behavior to God, you know. What is the correct behavior? Or your correct behavior to yourself, midas, which is really to man also, you know. It's all about correct behavior, you know. So it's almost the positive end of it. It's not the negation of problems of bias. It's all about, you know, how to live with everything in its proper way. So you want to say, which is true, that maybe if you do that, you won't be such a you know, then
Such a
you
mazik.
won't be a mazik. You won't negate everybody's bias.
It's a proactive approach.
Yeah, it's the positive as opposed to prevent the negative.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
It also compares positive to negative within.
What?
It also compares positive to negative within it, so
It compares positive to negative, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it should do, yes.
segments.
Yeah, sure.
that's like introducing an element and removing
Well, yeah, you know.
Seitov,
Yeah. Yeah, it's got both actually, you know. So probably it's there because behavior, wrong behavior is usually what injures people or harms people. Most harm is done in terms of, if you think about it, most of the harm that people do to another is bias in a certain sense, it's ownership. If you think about that, most of the harm that is done, when you harm somebody, if you hit them and you harm them, you are damaging the object that he owns, which is himself. You know? Or you harm his money, his property. If you think about most harm that people do to others is ownership. That's why ownership is an incredibly important concept in Torah. So we realize that Ish Noshim is all about ownership, and Ezekiel is all about ownership. So the central idea of both Siddurim ultimately is ownership.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Just that there's so many different facets of ownership.
But also
Yeah.
Zrayim, like we learned about brachas.
Well, we didn't get to Zeram yet.
No, I'm just saying that it's all about ownership of Hashem. So you
No,
know,
it's not.
no.
no. What is Zeram about? Zeram has brachas,
Limitations
Heya,
on your
Demai,
ownership.
Truma,
Yeah.
Ma'aser Rishon, Ma'aser Sheni, Klayim, Shvius, Chala, Ola, Bikurim.
Conditions and limitations on your ownership of mostly agricultural inyan.
No.
Okay. That was clear. We got that out of the way.
No. Remember, go for the gut. Give me its essence. Because once you understand its essence, what's called the essential concept or the foundational concept, then everything else lightens up. Because everything else is nothing more than a different expression. I always use the example of a wheel. The wheel has a hub in the middle. And from that hub, you can have all the spokes coming out of it. Without that hub, there's no spokes. Because nothing, right? So the hub is the essential or foundational concept. The spokes are the different mesechtas.
How do we get to the hub? It's easier.
Think about, just take any mesechta. Truma. That's a famous mesechta. And then I'm going to ask you, what does brachas have to do with it? Right? That's next. But think of truma. What is truma, really? We know what truma is. You got a field, right? You got a whole wheat, let's say. The Torah says you got to give a certain amount for truma. You got to separate it and say this truma, and you give that truma to the kohen. That's the case. That's the process. What's its essence?
Essence is establishment of ownership.
No. What does that have to do with? It's not true. I own it before the truma. Nobody's going to deny I own it. You can't come into my field and say I'm taking all your wheat because you didn't give truma yet. What are you talking about? You're a ganaf or gazlan, whatever you want.
It's like a limitation on your ownership.
What?
You're limited. It's
Usage of ownership?
Usage.
Who?
Usage.
Usage. The Torah says, hey, you own it, but you cannot use it. How do you use it? How do I get to use my stuff?
Giving it away.
Giving it away. What's that called? Hafrasha. Hafrasha means to separate. And when you're mafresh, what do? You give it away for free. What's that called? Matana. The Torah says that you want to use your stuff, what you own, right? You got to give it away as a gift to a kohen, let's say, right? But you know, Zeroim is all about the denial of the usage, or I should say the reverse. Zeroim is about the devices that you must employ for object usage permissibility. How's that sound?
That's good.
That's good.
I was about to say that.
Good man.
See, that's exactly what it's all about. It's about object usage permissibility. How? Through matana. Or hafrasha, matana. It summarized the whole 11 mesechtas. Except brachas.
Why? Brachas is also what you have to give in order to make it permissible.
What do you have to give?
The bracha. You have to give thanks to a Kodesh bracha.
Very good. Yeah. The reason why brachas, even though it's in Zeroim, let me maybe fancy up a little, right? A bracha is a verbal declaration where you acknowledge the source of existence of the object, thereby permitting its usage. So the only difference is a bracha is a verbal declaration that permits usage, whereas the other one is the matana, an actual physical gift that permits its usage.
Then you have
But they're both devices. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
They're both devices that allow you to use the object.
What about the first half?
Which one?
Shma and Tefillah.
Wait. You got that. So that explains all the... now, why is Kalayim there? Why is Kalayim there? Or Ola? You can't use Kalayim. Kalayim is you graft, grape and seed together. The product, you cannot graft. You cannot use, So why is Kalayim there? And Ola, you also can't use the fruit for the first 3 years.
Prohibitions.
What?
They're showing once those things that one will not be able to get permissible.
Exactly. Because Zeroim is all about objects that you can use and that you can't use. No matter what.
Even though you own it.
Even though you own it, correct. That's a real limitation of usage and ownership, right? But even those objects, it's really all about restrictions of usage of the objects you own. Some objects you can never use that you own. Kalayim or Ola. Some objects you can use, but you have to employ a device. So it's always about, right, the object, permissibility, possibility, with the employment of a device.
That's also true of Ishus, right? Like you, with the chuppah and Harayat Mikudeshet, is a device that allows, it gives permissibility of the object that you're...
Wait, no, there...
Or whatever.
You didn't have ownership.
No, you didn't have ownership, no. A kedushin is a kinyan. It's a method to acquire ownership, thereby permitting rights of control, because that's what ownership is. You got to acquire, and then you could use. Here you already own, and you already have rights. And the Torah says, you got rights, but, excuse me,
Wait a minute.
you do not have the rights of usage of your object unless you employ specific devices, bracha or matana, and there's certain objects, I don't care what you do, you can't use it. So it's all about object usage permissibility. That's the whole Zroim. Isn't that interesting? That one concept, you see, can encompass the true idea as long as you found the essential idea. Look at the beauty of an essential idea. Look how much it enlightens and clarifies. Nothing beats it. Now, why is Kriya Shma, the first three program, Kriya Shma, and then you have the Tefillah, Shemona Esrei? Why is Kriya Shma in Brachos? What is it doing there?
It's at the very beginning.
So what? What does the beginning have to do with this?
It's something you have to do before you do anything else. In your ownership of yourself, you can't do anything before you first do your obligations.
To what?
To God.
You're on the way, but you're not saying it yet. Or your thinking is on the way. It's a very interesting concept. I mean, yeah, people want to say because Brachos deals with agricultural stuff, food, and well, this Ron deals with agriculture. This is called, this is called very weak associations. There's a much greater, clear reason why.
Acknowledging Hashem's ownership of us.
Acknowledging Hashem's ownership of us. True. You're also saying on the way. You're saying it, but you need clarity, which means it's so clear it has to hit you in the face. If it doesn't hit you in the face, if your eyes don't light up and say, Eureka, then you haven't gotten it. That's the criteria of that concept. It's a foundational concept that has to be so beautiful that it stuns you with its beauty.
This issue has to do with time, right? It starts with time as opposed to an object.
No, you're there.
Acceptance of Hashem. Acceptance.
Is there a lawyer here? There's no lawyer, is there?
He's not here.
He's not here.
Why are you going to tell him, Joe?
No.
The acceptance of Hashem's violence over everything. Myself and everything.
So what? Therefore what? Now what?
And therefore, now that, so I'm agreeing to Hashem's violence over everything.
So therefore,
and therefore now, I know who I'm obligated to give these mutanas or to give this declaration to of brachas.
You're on the way.
Can I take
an
easier approach?
Go ahead.
I think it just provides the just the biblical framework, talking about the land and the rain and the earth and the ground. And now that we get it, that's the deal, the picture. Let's go into the specifics about how we go ahead and how we can do it through brachot, or we could do it through other things. But I think it takes a slice of the Torah itself as like basically the box of the jigsaw puzzle, and now we can go ahead and we can go deeper into it.
You're on again.
All right.
Okay.
It's the rationale of the limitations of the usage.
The heck is with the Kohanim in there?
Since what he says, he's the Bailam. He's a true Bailam.
I'm a lawyer, let's say, right? You guys ready? Actually, imagine two guys get together, right? And they want to sign an agreement, which is a contract. It's an agreement where each one will take on that which they agreed to. Yes? There are two things they have to do. One is that they have to agree that they want to reach an agreement. Number two, what are the terms of the agreement? What do we agree on? First, we have to agree that we agree, that we want to agree with something to each other, general. And then what do we agree on? Yes? Rebbe is about to give you the whole Mishnais. What is the Mishnais all about? It's all about the Taryag mitzvahs. Remember what I once said? What's the basis of every halacha in Torah, in Shas? The answer is the Taryag mitzvahs. The Taryag is the basis of every halacha. Think about that. The 613 commandments is the bedrock of everything, right? And then you have that and all the drabbanans and the conditions, fine. But it all starts from the Taryag, yes? Okay, but the Taryag is very basic or general. What's the details of the Taryag? Where is that found? The answer is the Mishnais. The Mishnais are the details of the Taryag. Am I right? What are the problems of the Taryag? The Gemara. The Gemara deals with all types of problems, but they're the problems of the Taryag. And what is the application of the Taryag? The Shulchan Aruch. There you are. That's its evolution. The basis is Taryag. The details of the Taryag is the Mishnayos. The problems of the Taryag is the Gemara, Sugis. And the application of the Taryag is the Shulchan Aruch. There you are. Isn't that interesting? That's the way it builds up. Right? So, Rebbe is about to tell you the whole Mishnayos. 4,192 Mishnahs, which is the complete details, basically, of all the Taryag mitzvahs. Yes? But wait a minute. Excuse me. I'm not interested in your mitzvahs. I've never agreed to those terms. You and I first have to agree that we can have a contract about anything. I've never agreed to even agree to all these laws. So therefore, where is the agreement that we agree? Kriya Shma. When you say Shma, what are you really saying? When you're learning the laws of Shma, right? You're learning about we agree to agree. What does that mean? One, God exists. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu God. God is one. God is a king. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchusay. He is a king. If he's a king, yes, then he has rights over me to command me. That's his rights. He can issue a command, and I've got to serve. Yes? Oh, he's a command reserved, right? But wait a minute. I agree that he's my king. If he's my king, then I agree to abide by his commandments. Yes? There's the agreement. I agree that you have the right to command me. You see? That's the agreement. Oh, you agree that now that you agree that you have a right to command me, what are the commandments? What are the terms? Rest of the Mishnayos. So first Rebbe had to give you the whole concept of the agreement altogether. You know, what am I going to give you? All the commandments? You don't even agree that you even agreed to take commandments. But when you learn the laws of Shema, right? The Shema is the agreement itself. That I agree to agree. What do you have to agree to? That you're my king, sovereign. You have the right to issue commands and I must obey them. Okay, now, by the way, what are your commandments? That's the terms. That's why Shema is called Oil Malchus Shemayim. You agree to accept the yoke of heaven. That's the agreement. If you don't agree to get the yoke, who cares what your yoke is? That's why Shema comes first. Because without Shema, there's no point in telling you the commands. You've never even agreed to accept the commands. So Shema, v'hoyoim shamoa tishmu mitzvosai. That's all the commandments. That's why Shema is called Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim. It is the accepting of the yoke of heaven, which means I agree that God is my king. I agree that he has the right to issue commandments. And I agree to this. That's the contract. Now, what are the commandments? The rest of the 4,192 Mishnayos. Simple. It's very clear. Any lawyer will do that. You know, the first thing the lawyer is going to say to you, excuse me, you know, do you agree that you want to enter an agreement with this guy? You know, if not, what are we doing here, right? So the guy says, yes, we agree that we want to enter an agreement. Now, what is the agreement? What are the terms? And those are all the stipulations where it says whereas, if you ever looked at a contract, and so on. You know, that's the Mishnayos is the whereas. The fact that we agree to sit, right? We agree to abide by an agreement, that's Shema. See? Without any lumdus, patch, you know, fancy footwork, it's a simple concept.
It's just interesting that it's part of brachas. It should have been its own.
Well, it's not that it's part of brachas. It has to be in the beginning of the Mishnayos.
Yeah, then I understand.
And brachas have to be the first Masechta.
Why isn't it?
You know?
It should have been before anything else.
Which?
The Tzom Sechta.
Who?
Shema
Shema?
Tefillah.
Probably doesn't have enough information. You know, why you, you know, the whole thing is only 3 brachas. You know?
And you have the reverse, and it's really one.
What?
But Baba Kama, Baba Kim, Baba Batra are all actually one Masechta, but it's so big, so
That is split.
it's
Yeah,
the
here
opposite,
it's too
you know,
small.
Like, it's so
That's it.
small, so maybe put it.
The key idea is why does Shema come first? Because it's where I accepted God's right to give me a command. Without that, nothing happens. Now, from Perek Hey, Ketzat Mevochim, which is really Perek Vav, that's all about, okay, I agree to the command, okay. First command, you can't use your object unless you verbally declare that I am the source of the existence of the object you want to use, which, by the way, you own. So it starts.
Yes.
So Perek Vav is really where Mishna starts. Let's see. Now, why do we have Tefillah, Shmon Esrei, which is Perek Dalet and Hey, right? Because if I've accepted God as king, then guess what, right? Then how do I behave toward a king? I praise him and I make requests. See, it all follows from that. Well, now that I accepted you as king, let me take a little advantage of this, right? And you do that, right? You praise him, the first 3 brachas, right? The first 3 brachas is praise, king, right? The middle section is all about requests, and the last section is thank you. Thank you. You see, when you actually actualize your relationship with God, you see, and then once those 2 things are gone, then Ketzat Mevochim, I don't make brachas. Then the whole Mishnah starts.
But isn't it also that the tefillah isn't it also that through the tefillah, that's where we are we're bringing down Hashem Shefa. So it's giving us what to make our brachas on.
Yes, yeah, well, we're making a request. A shefa is nothing more than the response to my request. What is a shefa? A shefa is the response. It's the force that gives me what I want. That's how God acts through shefa. Ashpor, forces.
So that's what I'm saying. So through that, since that's where I'm getting my shefa, so before I can come on to Perek Vav on Ketzat Mevochim and so forth, this is the source that is going to give me those things that I will make brachas on.
Okay, you can look at that.
Hashpa'ah, influence, or shefa, abundance? Because I wanted this.
Well, we use shefa. Yeah, we use that in terms of an abundance, but a shefa really is a force. It's an energy that gives you.
Okay.
That's how we refer to God's actual actions. So isn't that amazing? Look, take a look. So Noshman Ezekiel is about ownership. Different types. Moed is about activity. Am I telling you what a moed is?
What's a moed?
A moed is a designated time, is the definition of a moed. A designated time period in which activity is regulated, either being forbidden or required. That's the definition of a moed. And therefore, there are many moedim. The Shabbos is a moed, right? The definition of Shabbos is a designated time period, namely the 7th day of the week, in which activity is regulated, either being required or forbidden. That's the definition of a moed. Once you have that definition, we can now begin to split it. 1, designated time periods. What about designated time periods? Well, when does it begin? When does it end? You know, what's called a week, a year, right? What's called what's a designated time period if I live in the North Pole? If I live on the moon? All kinds of questions about the designated time period. And then which activities are required, right? Kiddush, Gedaliah, Koved, Oinik, Hadloka, and so on. And which activities are forbidden? 1,560 activities are forbidden. There you are. So Moed is Noshman Ezekiel is about relationships that man has toward the world. The relationship is called ownership, rights of control. Moed is about man's activity. So Noshman Ezekiel is about man's relationship to others, ownership. Moed is all about man's activity. Zroim is about man's object usage, permissibility. Isn't that interesting? We're now beginning to see 3 fundamental ideas, which is half of Torah. Almost, actually, it's more than that. Torah is interested in 3 areas. Your ownership, which is your relationship to other objects. Your activities, and the usage of the objects that you own. That's 4 Sodom right there. 3 ideas in 4 Sodom. The next time we meet, we're going to do Kachim and Taras. What's the essential ideas of Kachim and Taras? What are the structure? And then we'll have finished Taryag Mitzvahs. And it's all it is another 2 ideas, actually 1. The whole Torah is all about 4 ideas. we've just introduced three. Ownership, relationship, ownership. Activity, object usage. It's the whole Torah. It's amazing. You can organize 613 commandments in so far, in three ideas. The Kachman Taras is fundamentally about one idea. We'll first see it's two ideas, and we're going to realize that there's a common denominator called one idea. So the whole Torah of Torah mitzvahs is nothing more than four ideas. The elaboration of four ideas. That's it. Interesting. And then once you have those four ideas, it breaks down into 63 Masechtas and the conditions of those four ideas. And that's the whole Torah. You see?
What does it mean that Avram Avinu, I don't know where this is sourced, but
kept all the mitzvahs?
He had many, many more Masechtas than we even have today, like hundreds.
Oh yeah.
Wait,
His Masechta
where does
Zohar
that-
was like.
I don't know.
Well, where he kept the mitzvahs is the Mishna at the end of Kedushin. But that he had, I think it's a Gemara somewhere that he had like his Masechta with the Zohar had a couple more hundred Mishnayos or Prokim or whatever, you know. It could be that he had what we have, but much further compartmentalized. You know what I'm saying?
But still the same before.
But not that he had more, you know, what other ideas did he have about Avodah Zarah that we don't have, you know? Look, there's 525 prokim in all Shas, you know? So maybe he had 1,000 prokim, but we organized them more, we put a lot more ideas into a smaller prokim. Maybe he just divided, because there are many prokim that have more than one idea. So maybe each idea is one parent. You know what I'm saying? So, in other words, he had a different division than we do. Does that mean he had different laws than we do? I don't think so. You know? So, you know. Any questions?
Yeah, how do we get to a definition? Is there a process to get to a definition?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing you have to do is get on your hands and knees and pray. That helps.
You can only do that once a year nowadays.
No, you have to play with it, you know? You have to look at the idea you want to define, and then play with it. It's almost like you have to feel it. You have to say to yourself, well, what is the essential idea? Oh, by the way, next week is Yom Kippur. So there's no more class.
Oh, Wednesday.
Next Wednesday is Yom Kippur.
Yeah. During break?
Who?
Won't we during break before?
So next week there's no class, and then after that there's two more classes, which I want to finish the whole Shas. So after Wednesday after Yom Kippur, and then Wednesday, what do you call it? Actually Sukkot, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you guys go away for Sukkot, I don't know what happens.
I'll be available, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to give a class Sukkot morning.
When do you go? I thought that you're away for Sukkot.
No, I'll be leaving October 31st.
Oh, very good.
So I'm here till a week after Sukkot.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, so there's two more classes, of which I want to finish Kachman Taras. You don't want to miss Kachman Taras because it's like, and they're very fundamental. And like that, we will have finished the fundamental structure of the whole Shas. You see, and it's all different way of thinking,
So that has to be a Chol Moed.
That'll be on one is on Chol Moed, and one is after Sukkot. One is the Wednesday Chol Moed. It's early, so after 12 o'clock you do what you want. Or actually, for you, it's Tuesday is Chol Moed. Monday is Sukkot, Tuesday is Chol Moed for you. Tuesday for me is Yom Tov, I think.
Really, you do that?
I need a makeover.
We'll talk
I need a
afterwards.
poisik.
I got
I need a
it.
poisik that is his name is Michael. Michael. Oh, is your name Michael? Michael. Oh, I need that guy. Anybody know a poisik was a Michael?
Ask Larry.
What was that?
Ask Larry.
Yeah, I need a Michael. Anyway, right now I didn't get one yet. So far I'm in it for the second day. But Wednesday it's Chol Moed for me also, so it's not a problem,
Any hashkafa, shmir, shiur.
Hashkafa about what?
Anything taking place, that you're going to be speaking on any hashkafa.
Well, Sunday night I'm giving a shiur in Ranana on the 21st century, the bridge version.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's in Ranana. Other than that, I'm not scheduled to speak anywhere. It's too bad because I have a whole shiur on Yom Kippur and a whole shiur of the Pnimius of Sukkot. Very interesting shiur. what it really is all about, And as I say, it's not what you think. Most people don't really know what sukkah is.
Are you going to give a shiur on that?
Yeah, I'll share that. It's on my website.
Oh, it's already there, okay.
It's on there. So I have 200 shiurim on my website. One of them is called Sukkot, and the other is called Yom Kippur. It's all about tshuva, what tshuva really is.
Yeah.
That's the actual title, is it Sukkot? That's the title of that,
Sukkot, yeah.
of that shiur?
Yeah, it's part of the 200 shiurim that I have on the website. If you have access to the internet, so.
Is it a video or a tape?
It's an audio.
Thank you. Everyone,
Yeah, so you forgive me for everything I did to you, which is considerable. You're not sure. Hey, listen, if you don't forgive me, don't bother coming back.
there's nothing, well, you're mindful. There's nothing you're mindful anyway.
Yeah. No, maybe I insulted you. You never know what goes on. Take care, Colton.
So, Rebbe was saying to get to a definition, we just have to play with it. There's no
you have
it seems
to
like
look
an
at the term.
unorganized.
You have to and ask yourself, what is it, and if I remove that, it would cease to be that.
What is it?
If I removed it, what would it would cease to be that? Because that's what its essence is. What is its essence?
If I remove that, it's no longer.
It's no longer that, correct. In other words, if let's say car, there's green car and red car. If I took away the color and put brown, it'd still be a car,
Okay.
right? But if I took a car and I took out its engine,
It's a
You know
car
what I'm saying?
without an engine.
Dysfunctional car.
it's a who?
Car that doesn't
Dysfunctional
work.
car.
It's
It's a
a,
desert.
It's a car body.
it's a car body, but it's not a car. It's true, it's a car body.
And it has no wheels.
It has no wheels. Again, it's a car body. I mean, it looks like a car, but it's not a car. Because, and so on. You have to play with it, like a chair. What's a chair? Right? What's a chair that we're all sitting on? A chair is a device that allows an individual to assume a sitting position.
We didn't finish that. We
Ooh.
said you have a couch or whatever.
Well, now I have to, what's a couch? So a couch is a variant form of chair. There are different forms that will allow me to assume a sitting position. You see?
There's a type of chair, so we still have to define the difference between a couch and a chair.
Yeah, then you go into, how does the variant form differ?
But it's going to be defined differently.
Well,
it's a chair.
It's a different
a couch will differ, its appearance is different. Couches tends to be, allows more than one person to
Yeah,
sit.
can a chair sit two people?
multiple
Or is it-
people.
It's really a chair.
A couch really is a chair, because it does the exact same thing.
Why isn't a chair a small couch?
What?
Why isn't a chair a small couch?
Which came?
Well, see, that's a chair, that's a small couch. You're right,
Yeah,
yeah.
but they're all,
The problem is
But
using
the problem
chair
is-
as a category.
Exactly,
Should be
the
a
problem is
seating
you
device as a
define couch.
category.
Yeah.
Maybe a couch is multiple chairs. So once something becomes a single, it's no longer a couch, it's a chair.
And then you have a bench.
Then you have, a bench is a chair without a back. It allows you to sit, but it doesn't enclose you
Oh, so
totally.
then what's a stool?
doesn't let you
What's a
rest.
who?
A stool. A stool is a chair without a back, whereas a bench is a couch without a back.
For a lot of people,
A
like a
stool
couch.
is something that is very easy to fall off.
Stool is an individual bench.
What?
Stool is an individual bench.
Yeah, okay, there you are.
A stool is a bench for one person.
But if you know what stool is, what's a stool pigeon? Anyway, I'm telling you, it's not easy to define. It's not easy because we go around life, we know what things are intuitively, but we don't really think about them. We know intuitively. The problem is if you know something intuitively, if somebody presses you, you don't know what to answer. In a sense that you have to translate your intuitive knowledge into a precise verbal description. It's not easy, and so on, But in the area of Torah and Halacha, you need to define. Not only because it tells you what something is, but you cannot create a structure, because a definition will always show you that something has different parts. Like I showed you by Ishus. Ishus is a legal state in which an individual has rights of control over an object. So there you are, individual is one part, object is two, rights are three. You see, so then you can begin to see a structure. There's the individual, the subject, there's that which is owned, the object, and then there is the rights of control. And then once you get rights of control, fine, then you begin to expand. What is the area of the rights? What are the rights? You see? What are the limits of the rights? Then your mind begins to expand. Once it grabs rights, then you allow creativity to come in. You expand on that concept. But if you don't have a clear concept to begin with, what are you going to expand? You expand what? All your expansions will be vague, murky. You know what I'm saying? The key to thinking is precision. Precision is the beginning of clarity. Once you understand something precisely, then you begin to see its subdivisions, and that creates more ideas and so on. But clarity is about knowing what something is and how it's connected to everything else, precisely. That's really what it is. Most guys are incredibly unclear about what they learn. It's astounding. I've given many classes to mechanchim, yeshivas, you name it, and you throw out a simple question, they don't know what you're talking about, they can't define, I'll never forget, I once gave a class, and the guys, it was in Lakewood, the guys around the class, the guy who set up the shit told me that a lot of these guys have gone through half shots. They said, wow, great. So I was giving them the Hagdom to Derech Hashem, which is, by the way, the introduction to the whole concept of method, and so on. And I asked the guy, what are you learning? Only Bava Kama. I said, okay, tell me, what's the essential concept of Bava Kama? And they were fumbling around, So I think finally some guy said, Hezek, Nezek. I said, fine, what's the definition of Nezek? There was not one guy around that table who could define Nezek. We know what it is. Nezek, or damage, is the rights or the interference or the negation or detraction or privation any would want to use of bias. Therefore, it's compensatory. They couldn't tell me that because they all knew it intuitively. They use the word all the time. They never bothered defining it precisely. You see, it was astounding to me. You see, and I find this after many shoots that I've given to be common. Most guys are very unclear about what they're talking about. Because they've never been trained to think conceptually. What's the concept? Tell me what it is. And they don't know. And then forget about knowing what the concept is, be able to deduce its parts, or being able to take its parts and putting it together, which is induction. To go from the prat to the klal is induction. They can't do that. They don't even know how to do that. They cannot induce, and so on, Like if I want to induce this video, right? What is it? What's the larger idea of this video? Induce.
A recording device.
What?
A recording device.
Half right.
Visual recording device. Visual and audio.
No, I'm much better off with your recording device, which is very good, by the way, what you said. But is it a recording device of an event? It records an event,
Yes.
whatever the event is. Right? So once I understand that this is nothing more than a type of device that can record events, well, what other devices can record events? Well, there are sound events, tape recorder. There are visuals, and so on, That's induction. I went from the prat all the way to the cloud. But most guys can't do that. That was very good, by the way. But if I want to deduce, I look at this and I say, well, it's a device that will record visually an event. It's okay, now let me break it down to its parts. One, how does it work? Well, it has film or whatever, How does it work? When does it work? Where does it work? What are some of the conditions that enable it to operate or work? You see, it has parts. And then I begin to see a structure of a thing called a video camera. You see? And most people don't do that because they don't think this way. Most people are comfortable with vagaries. That's what it is. They're comfortable with it, they're okay with it. They don't have to know something precisely. The problem is that in Torah, you need to know precisely.
Well, that's the
Because
gift
that's what Vishinantim Levanecha, Sheim Mechudodim Beficha, you have to know with precision, you see. And the second reason is the greater precision that you know Torah, the greater is the ore to the neshama. Got a payoff. You know, one guy who knows something vague, another guy knows a precision, the ore that his neshama receives from that shefa of the Torah is a million times greater than the ore that this guy's. You see? You know, the limud Torah is the same. They both learn. So that, you know, and even that has gradations. Because Mesiras Nefesh, if somebody learns and his Mesiras Nefesh is greater than the other one, then the ore of the Torah is greater because Mesiras Nefesh is greater. That's an external factor, which is interesting, right? But that's in limud Torah. In Yediyas Torah, who knows it better? Who knows it with more precision? The ore of the Torah, which is infinite, is much greater to somebody that has labored to understand that the idea is precise than somebody who is vague. You see? It has a real consequence in Olam Haba.
So practically speaking, a person who would want to take up...
What'd you say?
Practically speaking, a person who would want to adopt your approach, should he stop learning in the way that he's been learning? And
no, because to learn, I want to tell you what Ramchal says, if you open up a Chumash and you read it, that's Schav Torah.
Yeah.
As long as you're engaged in Torah, you are getting the schar of
him. But if you want to get
what?
To where if a person wants to get to the level of clarity that you're talking about, and then learning the way they've always been learning in a very vague way, isn't that sort of a shiur?
It's not. It's there. I want to tell you something. But it's taken into account the judgment. The judgment is this: A, what is their capacity for clarity? You know, if a guy has a certain capacity and he doesn't, you know, then in that case, it's the proportion of the capacity that you've used that measures the amount of enlightenment. You know, if a guy's retarded, you know what I'm saying, and he's learning Torah, you know what I'm saying, his capacity is limited, but if he fulfills all his capacity, right, then he will receive that reward, which is equal to somebody that 50% of his capacity. It's interesting.
So you're saying maybe we should slow down and try to do it with more clarity? Is that
you know, clarity is the ikar.
Yeah.
You know, I hold even Bekiyas. Let's say you learn fast, right, tomorrow, you know? Without clarity, what are you doing? It's absurd. There's no such thing as running fast. What you can do is you don't have to answer anything. You just have to think. Say, okay, in Gemara, let's say, well, what's exactly the question? You know? And I don't understand. I have a question on his question. So jot that down, that's all. Even means you're going to really do the research to find out all your questions, you know? But Bekiyas is a minimal of clarity even for Bekiyas.
What's that minimal?
What?
How would you describe that minimal?
To understand what is being said. What is being said? What is the question? What is the Shakla V'Tanya? Gemara, that is. Not Mishna is halachos. What is being said? And so on, you know? What is the debate, the argument? What's the nature? He's bringing a refutation, an attempted resolution, a refutation of that resolution. You know, what is being said? That's the minimal. Forget about thinking now, okay, well, I don't understand what's being said. Could it have been said differently, right? Could it have been refuted differently? And so on, you know. What are the consequences of his refutation? There's all kinds of extensions and expansions, true. So you're not going to do that if you don't be Bekiyas. But you need to know what it says, you know? And there should be some attempt made at retention, memory. How do I remember this? And there's a whole, you know, I spoke about how do you remember the memory system and so on, you know?
Are we going to cover that in the last 2 weeks at all?
What was that?
Are we going to do any of that in the last 2 weeks, the memory system?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, maybe.
You have it on the website?
Yeah. In those 70, I have 70 shurim on the website, the method. In those shurim, you can see what I'm doing, you know? And the guys, you know, you see me, but you don't see them. It's a whole bunch of guys, and all of them learned. And I asked them questions that you don't have to know anything. You just have to think. And it's astounding how these guys can't think. You don't believe
Well, we're here too, you know.
You throw out a question that requires no bakiyas. You don't have to know Rishonim, nothing. Just think. You come up with a concept, you know, just pure thinking. It's amazing how you can throw out a Mishna and guys, you know, cannot think about what's in front of them. You know what I'm saying?
I think you're overestimating humanity. I'm sorry. It's not. Most people, it's hard work to think.
Yes.
And most people avoid hard work. You're conceptualizing and intellectualizing what you're saying. People would prefer just to, I know it, intuitionally.
I agree with you. However, my statement is God demands clarity. And that's all. I tend to talk about the ideal. You're right. I know human nature. I'm a psychologist. But I'm not concerned now with human nature. This isn't the psychology course. What this is a course of ideal. What does the Moshe want? What is the greatest way to perform the commandment? And the Moshe wants Torah. Every Jew has to be a master of the oral law with incredible precision.
Yeah.
That's a tall order. You know, but like I say, you know, I don't charge tax. I just collect it. You know, I didn't make the rules. He made the rules. You know, so on. But look, part of the reason, look, there's a lot of reasons why people, I hold that the educational system is flawed. That's number one. It's flawed. Most classes are information classes. You never learn how to think about the information. So what happens is they never teach you a method of thinking. You know what I'm saying? So after a while, you know, and then when they do teach you a method of thinking, it's without any database of information. Imagine taking an advanced journal article and analyzing that without knowing anything about the field. A sugya is an advanced halachic problem that needs a resolution. What do you mean advanced halachic problem? Yeah. Where's your database? Where's your preparation for this sugya? You don't have any. That's why most guys fail in Gemara, because it's a bunch of fragments. You know, it's like me giving you 1,000 pieces of jigsaw puzzle, right? And I never show you the box. You know, maybe you're going to figure it out, a piece, but you'll never know what's going on. You know, a guy sits down and learns any masechta. What are you guys learning these days? Maybe that was the wrong question. Yeah, Gittin starts with maybe Get Medina Siyam, right? Somebody comes with a man comes with a get from across the sea, right? And he comes here and he says, by the way, the husband of Rivka, here's the get, he wants out, right? Excuse me. What do you mean he wants out? What's a get? What's it all about? What's the whole process of gerushin? Gerushin is a process, not just a get. A get is the instrument used to sever the marriage bond. But there's a process. You know, the guy's got to want to divorce his wife. Then he's got to appoint a sefer. The sefer has to write a specific document with a specific text and has instruments. Then somebody's got to go and deliver, right, this instrument, right, to the woman. And then she has to be koine it, right, and so on. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on. They don't know anything about that. They start at the beginning of get without maybe get. If some guy brings a document, a get from across the sea, and he shows up in Bezdin, and he says, this get is for this man's wife, Rivka, so all of a sudden the Gemara starts, then the shliach, the agent, has to issue a formula called, before me it was written, and before me it was signed. Excuse me, I don't know anything about Gittin. Why am I learning a special case of where a guy comes from across the sea? You see? I don't even know a guy can make an agent for delivery. How do I know he made an agent? Then all of a sudden this is all about an agent, right? That's coming from a guy across the sea. I don't know anything about a get. I don't know what it is, how you give it, or the whole concept of agency.
I don't even know anything about Kedushin.
Yeah, exactly. What's happening
here? What the heck's going on with Kedushin?
Because the tragedy is, a guy doesn't have a database of information. He should have learned the whole Mishnayos, or at least he should have learned, getting the whole Mishnayos first, and then learn the Masechta. You see? So Gittin starts in the 8th parak as the first Mishnah. How are you going to know Gittin then? You won't. And not only that, and all of a sudden you jump into the Gemara. You see? It's already advanced material, and you jump into the analysis and problem solving of the advanced material. It's like me, imagine I want to go, become an MD, right? I'm not going to go to school. Who's got the money for this? I'm going to go to a medical library, right? And you ever see a medical library? It's huge. And I pull out a journal on cardiology. Remember, I don't know anything about medicine, or even biology, right, or chemistry. I pull out a journal of cardiology, right, a journal, and I open it up, and there's an article, that if the left ventricle is missing a certain type of electric wave, what would that indicate about the functionality of the right ventricle? And what would be its proper surgical procedure? And I'm looking at this article, I say, what are you talking about? Of course, I don't know what you're talking about. I always use the example, a guy goes into, wants to become a physicist, so he avoids graduate or undergraduate school. He doesn't want to go to undergraduate, he doesn't have the money, whatever, right? So if somebody finagles his way into graduate school physics, so after 3-4 days, the professor gives an exam, and this guy got a 2. That's quite bad, and that's only because he signed his name right. So he goes over to the professor, and he says, I don't understand something, I only got a 2 this exam. So before the professor dies of laughter, he says to the guy, that's strange, how'd you do an undergraduate? So the guy says, undergraduate? I never went to undergraduate school in physics. So the professor says, what are you, crazy? This is graduate physics. What are you doing in graduate physics without any undergraduate work? You don't know anything. You don't know math, calculus, physics as an undergraduate. What are you doing here? Same thing. You take a guy, you sit him in front of an advanced article called a sugya. It treats of an advanced article, right? A contradiction between Rav and a Brisa. Now, I don't know anything about Rav, right? Well, Rav is a statement in some incredible legal area, which I don't know anything about. And then there's a Brisa, which I also don't know. And I'm supposed to figure out what's going on, and then follow the debate? What is that? They'd throw you out of school if you ever did that.
We're not even talking about the psychological damage it does to children.
It destroys their ego.
Worlds of worlds.
They close the college. They close the university if that ever happened. You need to take what? Physics 101, 102, and so on. They go to graduate school, Or a guy goes to law school, and he gets into 3rd year law school. So same thing, gets a 2. So the guy asks him, how'd you do in the first 2 years of law school? I don't know, I never went. So what, are you crazy? This 3rd year law school is advanced law. It assumes you know law, the terms, the definitions, the operations, the processes, everything. And we'll talk about the advanced. Why is this happening? How can a guy learn a Gemara when a Gemara is fundamentally an advanced treatment of problems, of halachic problems, if he knows nothing about the areas of halacha? That's why you have to have learned the Mishna.
So why was it made that way? Why is the first Mishnah in Gittin made again?
Well, that's a good question. Why Rebbe did that, But at least the guy to learn the Mishnayos before you learn the Masechta. You know what I'm saying? At least do that. Why Rebbe did that, and that's not the only one. You have Yevamos is the same. You have a lot of Masechta start in the end instead of the beginning. Whatever.
The Chumash itself, I would say, why is it not...
I want to tell you something. There's something about God. You cannot question God. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
I can talk about a human being. I cannot talk about God. Why God does anything is infinitely beyond my imagination. See? But I can, you ask about anybody else. Why did Rebbe start in Yevamos that there are 15 women that will exempt their co-wives
Does he want us to ask
from Zika altogether? Excuse me, what? What's a Yibum? What's a Chalitza? What's Zika? What's a Yovam? What's a Yavama? What's an Erva? What is an Erva? You know, and so on. And the first case should have been, what happens if the brother dies and his wife is an erva? Forget about if she's a co-wife. What happens if she's the original wife? It's all, I don't know the answer.
Does Rebbe want us to
See in
ask
2
these?
weeks.
It's easy fast.
Thank you.
Does he
Anyway,
want us to ask these questions in a systematic
you
fashion?
have to. You don't see the,
No, I mean, but is
the
there an
mind
order?
works in a systematic
No, but
way.
is there an order to
Yes.
this question?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
In other words, if we
There's always a
follow
beginning.
the method.
There's
right,
always a beginning.
and a middle. and
You know,
an end.
if you have a sweater, if you could find the initial thread, you can unravel the whole thing. You go find the initial thread, somewhere wrapped up somewhere, right?
And then put it back together.
I told you what the initial thread. The initial thread is the foundational concept.
Yeah.
What is the concept that the whole thing lies on? What are you learning now, Mir? Oh, in the Erev? What's an Erev? I don't want to put you on the spot. What? You know what an Erev is?
It's, there are three kinds of,
It's a who?
there's three parts of the there's three areas.
No, oh, what's
What
the
is
Erev Chatzeres?
We're
Oh, wait, Sunday. Oh, so
on.
what time?
We'll talk later.
You want to call me?
Sure.
Because you don't take messages.
No,
Did you change?
that's a voicemail thing. Yeah, sure.
I don't know
I'll
how
call
to
you
get
later.
through.
I got you. Yeah, I'll call you later today.
You call me later today?
Yeah.
Great.
4, 5, whatever.
Great, okay, that's great. Okay, we speak, thanks.
Sure.
Anyway,
Is your,
an Erev is a device, right, that removes the prohibition of carrying rabbinically.
do you know that?
Yeah.
No period?
I see.
So what's the foundational concept? What do I have to know before I even get into Erevin?
And there
What's
is a
up?
prohibition.
Of what? Hitzor. So I have to know Hitzor, all about it. What it is, right? What it accomplishes, the different parts to Hitzor, right? Then after that, I now realize, right? And I have to, the concept of Hitzor includes two concepts. One, right? The concept of a domain, and the concept that you cannot carry from one domain to another. Those are the two fundamental concepts. The whole concept of a rishus, right? And the concept, what's the action about those rishuyos, you cannot carry from one into the other. Got it? Right? Then we elaborate, okay, how many rishuyos are there in the Torah? What do you think? How many rishuyos do you think there are in the Torah? Rishus Rabbim, Rishus HaYochid, yes? What else? Carmelis. What else? You see, that's all incorrect. There's only two rishus in the Torah. There is nothing else. A carmelis is nothing more than a rishus that is rabbinicalized to be asa. But in the Torah, there's no thing as a carmelis. And the Makom Ketur is not a rishus. It's the concept of a non-rishus. So in the Torah is only rishus HaYochid, rishus HaRabbim. Isn't that interesting? The Chachamim came along and they said, you know, there's certain things that really resemble the other two rishuyos. We will rabbinically forbid them in Hitzor. That's interesting. So we recognize, one, there's a concept called rishus. Two, there's a concept called Hitzor. Three, we recognize there are only two rishuyos in the Torah. 3, 4, the Chachamim added, they created a new type of rishus, right, that they said Hitzor is awesome. And then number 5, we will now introduce a device that will permit what we forbade. That's the whole concept of Erev. Then the concept, okay, what is the Erev, what's its form, what's its material, you know, what does it look like, how high is it, when can you use it, where can you use it, how can you use it? Those are all conditions in the device that permit a rabbinical prohibited domain. That's it. See? Wasn't that simple? The other type of rishus is called tchumen. What's tchum? What is a tchum? Yeah.
It's another prohibition
Of what? Is it?
of leaving a certain,
What?
Around the area.
it's leaving a
It's
certain
what?
area.
What?
It's divine.
But it's funny, it doesn't involve Hitzor, does it? What does it involve?
Restricts your own movement.
Restricts movement beyond that area. Isn't that interesting? but it's the same concept of rishus. There's a rishus that restricts carrying, and there's a rishus that restricts movement.
Which is part of carrying.
You know?
It's
Maybe
part
because
of
there's really one concept called rishus, and it has two tzitzos. One is carrying in it, or from it to another, and one is walking out of it. But it's the same concept of rishus. See? So minat Torah, there's a rishus that you cannot walk past. You know what I'm saying? 2,000 amos?
Yeah.
Limit Rabbanon is 12. It's a rishus. But the concept of a tchum is also a concept of a domain. What's the definition of a domain? What is a domain?
It's like a super concept or something,
A
probably, right?
super concept doesn't tell me what it is.
No, I'm just saying,
No, so
it should seem to be very broad, like Bilas was.
I don't care. It needs a definition.
A defined area.
What is a rishus?
A domain is a,
Well, I mean, what is a domain?
a domain is a defined area.
Go ahead. I once said, go ahead, that.
Defined area that determines what is prohibited and what is,
You talking about a space domain or a time domain?
Spatial.
Spatial.
No. A
I was talking about
rishus or
domain.
domain is a designated area that has halachic consequences.
okay. Because that's conceptual
That's
as well
what it
as
is.
physical.
The halachic consequences about that area. The area itself has halachic consequences.
Yeah, there you go.
If it didn't, it wouldn't be called a domain. You see? How's that sound?
That's good. You can apply it to
Oh, yeah.
to temporal domain.
Yeah, oh yeah. A domain simply means
It's conceptual.
that it is either a time domain, but it has halachic consequences. You see? And then there are two types of domains. There's a domain in which action is forbidden or restricted, and there's a domain in which the action of walking is restricted. Or you could say one is a domain in which transferring an object outside of it is prohibited,
Yeah.
and the other one is where walking outside of it is
Or
prohibited.
moving
Isn't
the
that
person.
interesting? They're both the same. You see? Once you have that, then you break it down into its structure. All the different ideas of an Erev, and each category has different halachas. And voila, you've mastered the whole Erev. You see?
So is a sukkah a domain?
A sukkah is a domain, yes.
Yeah.
Has halachic consequences.
Take a phone call break.
Yeah, that's okay, fine. Wow.
You're over.
You know, usually guys are waiting to run away. You know? I'm talking about thinking, cognition.
But I keep saying that you're expecting, this is a high level. This is not average, normal,
I know.
everyday. That's all. And that the expectation should be, hey guys, you got a lot of work. I mean, I looked in the mirror and I scared myself. Because, you know, when I said, hey, I don't understand this. I'm beginning to, piece by piece. But this is not the kind of stuff, unless you started in the right place. You're right, the education system stinks.
That's it.
We didn't, that's what his question was. It's a major, you got a sinking boat, leaking from all different directions. And it's gotta get to where it's going, and meanwhile you gotta fix it. So the question now, I'm trying to put it together in my own head, is where do you start?
1% of the world knows how to think.
Ah.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait. Follow me. 4% of the world think that they know how to think. 95% of the world would rather drop dead than think.
But, all right.
So this is the way it works.
Now, I think the question.
However, wait. When a kid goes to school, he's not the one that determines what happens. There is a school system that says we are going to do this to you. That school system has refused to educate people in a proper way. They should have taught kids, one, here's the requirements of a true educational facility. Want to hear what it is? 1, linguistics. I'm about to sit down and learn a text in Hebrew or Aramaic. I don't know anything about these languages. He should have been taught linguistics, language, to master Hebrew scholastically and Aramaic. Because Aramaic is not that much more difficult. Once you know Hebrew, it's much easier Aramaic, because the binyanim is similar. I'm not talking about Israel so much, America. He should have been taught he needs to learn language, because his text is in a foreign language. You know how many guys suffer because they don't know Hebrew? They suffer for their whole lives. Number 2, okay, he should have been taught critical thinking skills. How to think. And those 2 areas of thinking skills are 2. Logic, which is the science of correct thinking, and ontology, which is the science of being in general. What is a quantity? What is a quality? What's a cause? You see? That's ontology. So that's number 2, which is critical thinking skills. Number 3, you apply the critical thinking skills of logic and ontology to Torah. That's called method. That's the 3rd thing he should have been taught. What we're doing here is method, right? Okay. Number 4, he knows the language.
We skipped the other ones.
What?
We're skipping the other ones.
Which ones?
Logic and ontology.
No, I just
We
included
skipped them, saying we're doing
The shiur
methods. We skipped
Yeah,
the
yeah,
2.
because there's no time.
We need the yeshiva.
So therefore, here's what you should have learned. Linguistics is 1, logic is 2, critical thinking skills, which includes logic and ontology. Number 3 is method, the application of thinking to the Torah text, and so on. Number 4, database. He should have been given an incredible database of clear, organized, systematized, structured Torah. All of it. Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, 4,192 Mishnahs, organized beautifully in 63 diagrams. Right? If you would know that, he would know 40% of the whole Shas. Right there. Because 40% of Shas is Mishnahs. Right? Right? I'll tell you. Imagine if you know all the Mishnahs, you take out all the space of the Mishnahs. Right? Then you take out every place it says in the Gemara, V'hatanan, you know that too. And then every brisa is what? Every brisa is 80% Mishnah, 20% Chiddush. It's a brisa. Because really the brises really are Mishnahs that Rebbe rejected. So therefore, if you know Mishnahs alone, not only do you know the database, you know 40% of Shas. It's astounding. They don't get it. Then, once you've got these 4 items, linguistics, language, critical thinking, method, database, wow.
What grade are we at?
Wait, and then you're ready, right, for a real curriculum. Then you can begin to learn Gemara. But since you know the whole Mishnahs, you can learn 2 blot a day. It's not hard because you already know 40% of it. You see? So in 3.5 years, you finish all Shas. You see? So you learn that, and then of course, while you're learning the Mishnahs, you can learn what is the maskana application in practice, which is halacha, and then you learn hashkafa, and you learn Tanakh. That is the perfect. And I want to tell you something. You know, in the entire Tanakh, how many words are there that repeat themselves more than, let's say, 10 times? There's only 960 words. Are you aware of that? Means if you know a vocabulary of 960 words, which is not much, you know, right? You know almost all the words in Tanakh. It's incredible. When was the last time you learned the vocabulary list? Nothing. It doesn't even exist in the mind of yeshivas. You can revolutionize a yeshiva by doing this. Can you imagine? That means, right? You do Mishnahs, let's say, if you have a Rebbe, let's say, you do 4 Mishnahs a day, you learn the entire Shisha Sidrei Mishnah in 3 years. All of it. Clear. Then you learn 3.5 blot a day, you finish in 7 years. You will be an Adam Gadol. You will be a massive Talmid Chacham. So imagine a guy starts at 13, you know.
Wait, starts what? The beginning?
Could you believe that a guy in high school could be a massive Talmid Chacham by the time he graduates? Just by knowing all Mishnahs clearly. I don't mean repeating it like a parrot. I don't know, I'm talking about that. I'm talking about knowing it, right? It's astounding what a guy knows. By the time he's 17, 18, he would be able to put away 90% of all yeshiva guys. That's how massive it is. And I'm talking about the Mishnahs with the Chakiris and the fundamental Rishonim in it. You know what I'm saying? And you could do that, it's not a big deal. And you could take all the maskanos of the whole Masechta and insert it in its proper place in the Mishnahs. It's unbelievable what you know. In what? 4 years. And then you learn the Gemara, let's say, You're knocking off your 3.5, 4 years. And I'd say, by the time you're 7, just add 7, 8 years to your life. And you will be no more than 95% of every yeshiva guy. You realize instead of taking 35 years, you've done it in 7. And believe me, your 7 years, nobody can even touch. That's how far ahead you are of the average guy. They've got 7 years of mishmash. You know, and you've got 7 years where you've mastered the whole Torah, basically. It's astounding what you've done. You can go and make a massive Talmud Chacham in 3 years. Just by learning Mishnayos well, you can become a massive Talmud Chacham in 3 years. That's astounding. Not 35, 3. The problem is most guys will never become that. Why? Because it's all fragmented. It's all over the place, like a chart. It's like me giving you a 10,000 piece jigsaw puzzle. Forget about it. Take it 30 years to do that. It's suicide, you know? It's the same idea. You give a guy Gemara, and even if he knows each sugya, but it's always piecemeal. It's pieces where he's mastered a shtickle. Not the same.
So
that's the way to open yeshiva.
So his question then about the method. He asked the question, should we stop this and do this?
No, you can't.
So
you have to learn.
You have to start a new Seder, finding a new time.
So what I would suggest is everybody, do what you want, you know, and so on, but give yourself a 2-hour Seder, maybe 3 or 2.5, whatever, to learn Mishnayos B'iyun, not for your side, but B'iyun, that's the problem. Mishnayos is always seen for Balabatim, while they have a Yotzai. What do you mean? Mishnayos is the database. However, in the olden days it was much more hard, difficult. But today there's some great stuff in Mishnayos. You know, Art School has 3 versions of Mishnayos. They have the Yad Avrom, which is too much information. Then they have Reisman, I have it over here, which is tremendous. It's on 3.5 Shas, the Reisman edition. And then they have the Elucidated, which is a little less than Reisman, but it's in English, you know. And then there's Siyata D'Shmai, which is an incredible Mishnayos. There are some Mishnayos there which are credible today. You can know the whole Shas. And they bring down all the Gemaras and the Chakiras and all that. Why not? You know, and then you learn Gemara. It's like you don't learn a journal before you've mastered the textbooks. Why would anybody do that? So then why are you learning Gemara? Gemaras are journal articles. Each sugya is a journal article. It's an advanced problem. Why are you doing that for? That's why it kills everybody. I always ask this question, which I once asked. How long does it take to become an engineer? 5 years? You have any idea how much math and physics are involved in engineering? So how do they do it in 5 years, where the guy takes an exam, gets a job as an engineer? Why does it take 35 years to become a Talmud Chacham? Because they started off with textbooks, not with journal articles on engineering. They start off with a textbook that gives you the facts. Mishnayos is the facts. Problems, don't worry about later on. That's why they can become an engineer in 5 years. And you won't become a Talmud Chacham even at 35.
You recommend the Reisman over
Kahati.
The Kahati?
Yes. Much superior.
Yeah?
Yeah. Kahati was the original. He was the original. Reisman is much better. Reisman.
What does Reisman bring?
Because Reisman brings every halacha has 8 components. Case, conduct, principle, essential conditions, derivation, area, structure, case variations. In each halacha. Right? And that's how you judge the commentary. How much information is he supplying you? And Reisman supplies a lot of that. The main idea is the case, the conduct, and the principle. Why is this the conduct for that case? The author, the authority, and the area. Reisman tends to give you all that. Reisman is very good. The only match to Reisman is Siyata D'Shmai.
Siyata D'Shmai.
Yeah, those are the only match.
And then we have Reisman's only half of Shas.
It's only half. Noshim, Nezikin, and Moed, Noshim, Nezikin. Don't worry. By the time you finish the half, you'll get the other half. You know, and Siyata D'Shmai also doesn't have. It also has 33 Masechtas. You know, those are the best. You learn with those Mishnayos. Nobody's going to touch you in Yediyas. The critical thing is Yediyas, database. People don't have any Yediyas. They don't know anything. A sugya is not a Yediyah. The Gemara is not interested in giving you ideas.
As soon as you have it.
Yeah, it's interested in solving problems. That's all. The incredible thing is, even when you get to the maskana, which is a solution, it should be a yediyah that everybody considers it just part of the question and answers. They don't even look at it as a yediyah. So that's why nobody remembers Gemara, because who remembers Shaka V'Tanya? 90% of Gemara, Shaka V'Tanya, nobody remembers that. You want to be a Talmid Chacham? Right? Don't do what they do outside.
So if the person...
Do Mishnayos, be Iyun, with those two Sfarim. Right? You do that, 4 Mishnayos a day, 3 years, you will have done more than most guys know at 78 years old. You don't realize what, doing it the right way, you don't realize what that does for you. That's why I look at yeshivas, they're all a disaster. Most guys don't remember anything. That's assuming they knew it in the first place, which of course they don't. There are thousands of guys running around in different yeshivas, I don't want to say which, and they don't know what they're talking about. And even if they know a sugya, they never see it in the context. You see, you need to see the whole database to understand the structure. Like I'm showing you here. What a difference between understanding the whole Seder.
So you're saying when we're learning the Mishnayos, we should engage in this process of induction on the way?
Yes.
Making diagrams and
to the extent that you can do it,
categorizations?
Sure. Yeah, that's the Reisman.
And what's the difference between that and the Siyat and the Shema?
Siyat Shema is the same as Reisman. It's the same, it tries to give you a comprehensive understanding of the Mishnah. He's very good. Those two are the best.
At the end of the day, the guy who's learning by ideas.
What?
The guy who's trying to learn the right way by ideas, and not by memorizing Shaka V'Tanya.
Yeah.
What is the memory device that he's using to be able to remember? Now, why does he know? Why does he remember now? Because he understands.
Because it's organized. It's connected. All the dots are connected. That facilitates memory. The key to memory is organization, where all the dots are connected. Because the memory works by association. The greatest type of association is a structure, because everything is connected. That's already 50% of memory. Interesting. The other 50% is chazara, review. But 50% is organization. Do Mishnayos. Just make a little seder of it, that's all. You don't have to replace anything.
Otherwise,
go through the Mishnayos, master it, remember it. It will be...